What is good, folks? Welcome back to the Games Done Quick channel on this lovely Friday morning, evening, afternoon, or maybe it's a different day. Maybe you're catching up on this after the stream has happened. And if you are on YouTube, firstly, hello. You should drop a like on the video. And hey, if you want to join the action whilst these hotfixes and various other things that we have happening on the Games Done Quick channel, if you want to see them as they happen live, you can come over and join us on twitch.tv/GamesDoneQuick. As mentioned before, this is the hotfix. My name is Hypnotics. Some sort of name crossover there, but I have the honor of hosting Going Places. This is the Games Done Quick hotfix, where we have a look at games from around the speedrun landscape. Very cheesy, but we have a look at games that we can take on our travels as we are going places. Something that might, be on a phone. It might be on a PlayStation Portable. It could be on a Nintendo DS. And then the other thing that we have that we need to delve into a little bit more, I believe, is region exclusive games. See, I almost forgot that. Region exclusive games. So games that we might not have seen get global releases, or something that, might be very familiar to you, but nobody else has tried out. But we are going to be showing off some more portable love. We've been getting a lot of love for portable console release games recently. And whilst it is a game that we can play on modern things, which, this thing is really only so portable, we are going to be having Sway showing us Mario and Luigi, Partners in Time for the Nintendo DS. Sway, how you doing today?
I'm doing okay.
Awesome. And then joining Sway on commentary, the ever-present Ghost Kumo.
Hello, everybody. I hope you are excited for this run. I'm excited for this run. I'm always happy to see this game get, showcased in these sorts of situations. So it's one of my favorite speed games that I've had the privilege of working on. And I'm happy to see Sway here running it on the hotfix.
Awesome. Well, we are ready when both of you are. So let us know, and you can count yourself in, count the runner in, and yeah, we'll go.
All right. So we'll go ahead and get started on file select.
Or first, I'm gonna have to set my clock to set up an RNG manipulation later.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah, so the manipulation here, it's not strictly necessary, but it does make things a little bit more convenient for a certain late game situation.
I see we're in 2041 as well. Is that intentional as well, or is it mainly just the clock?
The date's just for another game I've run a little bit.
Okay,
it doesn't matter.
Fair enough.
Game.
Yeah, so as you can see, Sway is running on the original DS.
Yep. And yeah, I will be having another timer running. So.
Cool.
Just having it on in the background.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I'll start countdown from 5.
Okay.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Good luck.
Thank you.
So, strap yourselves in. We are going to be in for quite a bit of downtime in this game, along with many of the other Mario RPGs. A little bit infamous for fairly lengthy introduction sections. I'd say this run takes about 23 minutes, give or take, before you get past all the mostly deterministic tutorial stuff here. But here we're just getting introduced to the general plot line of this game. We get this intro cutscene where we find out about this race of purple mushroom aliens who are seeking a new home, and they set their sights on... I'm not entirely sure if they declare that the Mushroom Kingdom is set on Earth or not, but basically they spot the Mushroom Kingdom and decide that they're going to try and take over it and make it their new home. Meanwhile, we're in the past with Baby Mario and Baby Luigi. So, as with this game's Japanese name, Mario and Luigi RPG 2x2, as well as kind of the English name, which is more of a pun, you're going to be seeing both the baby and adult versions of the Mario and Luigi brothers. So this is a game where it is okay to be posting baby rage emotes in chat. So this is an RPG. You have your playable characters who have their HP, their strength, their defense, and you have your enemies who have their own HP, and you need to repeatedly chip away at their HP. Sway doing a job here of making sure not to accidentally initiate the tutorials of this game, because this game follows in the footsteps of the Mario RPG combat system, where most of your attacks, when you select an attack, if you press a button right as you are about to make contact with your attack, in this case with the jump, you press the X button, it does a little bit of additional damage. So the 4 face buttons are kind of one of the main fixtures of this game. Baby Mario is going to be bound to X, Baby Luigi is bound to Y. And then we're going to fast forward here about however many years between the games, I don't exactly say. All we see is giant alien invasion taking over the kingdom of the past. But now we're going to be fast forwarding to the present and finding out about kind of the thread that really gets this game's story going. In the present, Professor Egad has finished this invention called it's basically a time machine, using this device called a Cobalt Star to power it. And the princess decides she wants to go back to the past as sort of a vacation to check out what the past version of her kingdom was like when she was just an infant. Needless to say, you can probably deduce that this is where everything is going to go wrong. Because doesn't seem to be much record that in the past, the Mushroom Kingdom was taken over by aliens. Anyways, so Toadsworth is worried himself, basically to the point of passing out from stress. So we need to go and get him a healing mushroom to help with his blood pressure. Getting a bit of a tutorial on how Mario works. He uses the A button, and then Luigi uses the B button. So this game was developed for kind of like a prototypical setup for the DS. They hadn't yet figured out all the technology that they were going to use. So this game has extremely minimal use of the touchscreen or microphone features, but it does heavily use the fact that the DS has 4 face buttons rather than the Game Boy Advance, which only had 2, as well as the fact that it is 2 screens. So there is one screen that mainly just shows the map. It'll come into play in some battles, but for the most part, we're going to be focusing on the bottom screen here. It's kind of a neat little setup and something that, you know, worked fairly well on the early DS.
The top screen is also used for like some secret areas, which like that'll come into play like middle of the game.
So now everyone's anticipating the return of the princess, only her spaceship seems to be really badly wrecked.
It looks like it's seen better days.
And out pops a very strange looking alien. I'm not entirely sure what to describe this guy as. But here's effectively Mario's tutorial fight. Similar to the previous fight, we get introduced to this game's combat where you press buttons to attack enemies. But as we saw in the previous fight, if you time your inputs correctly, you can actually dodge pretty much every attack in this entire game. Not only that, but some attacks, including this boss's spin attack, have a counterattack. So whereas the first fight of this game, oh no, you accidentally accepted. Very minor time loss. So this fight has 20 HP. If you can get, since you can do basically 3 damage a turn with counterattacks, you can take it out in 6 turns, I believe. 6.5. Anyways, now we're at level up. Like with pretty much every Mario and Luigi game, and pretty much every Mario RPG, you have a little bit of choice on what you want to invest your stat points in. every time you level up, you can pick a stat that you put a little bonus into. And then it's going to have this little ticker that rolls down. And if you time it correctly, you can actually increase it by a little bit more. At the first level, you have the option of increasing it by 3. If you repeatedly invest in the same stat, it'll only max out at 2. But unlike Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, where there's no consistency in your stat increases, you can actually guarantee that you will get 2 every time you level up your power stat, which, because you can dodge every attack in this game, we're going to be going full glass cannon.
Although one thing to note, but on the North American version, I hear there's that you can get ghost rolls where like even if you timed it correctly, you'll still roll a 1.
Yeah, so you'll see that the text is in Japanese. The North American version of this game was released first, so it comes with a number of bugs and little quality of life things that they fixed and patched out of later releases, which includes the Japanese release. So if you want to speedrun this game, you pretty much are obligated to run on any version other than the North American version. Typically for marathons in the past, I've run on the European version. Sway here's just running on the Japanese. It doesn't really make a huge difference. Japanese is just the most accessible because the cartridge is pretty cheap. And unfortunately, DS games have gotten to the point where they're quite expensive.
Also, one other difference between Japanese and European is that on the title screen you can advance past it like 1 second sooner on Japanese.
Yeah,
like
so
if you need to reset during the run,
yes,
which might or might not happen.
Yeah,
you save like a second on Japanese each time.
There's one trick that you do need to make a save, and if you fail it, you'll have to make a soft reset. So that would be a trick where the Japanese is optimal. Anyways, Mario and Luigi have gone to the past because they need to look for the princess because she did not come back in the time machine. They get sent back, and here we have our new mascot buddy. This is Stuffwell. He debuted in this game. He only ever appeared in this game. I'm not entirely sure why they felt like they didn't want to bring him back. He's a little goofy. But he is our traveling suitcase friend who, because Mario and Luigi are just speaking gibberish the entire game, is kind of the mouthpiece that kind of, gives pointers in where to go while playing the game without causing the bros to suddenly start talking other than their usual gibberish. Anyways, so we've been sent to the past, shown our menu, inventory, equipment system, etc. Standard JRPG flair. And so, because it is a Mario RPG, the overworld tends to incorporate its own little platforming elements. You can run around, jump, climb across things. It has this sort of like 3D aesthetic to it rather than like being a, top-down, grid-based RPG. I'm not entirely sure which staff was left over, but I do know that when Mario and Luigi first came about, several of the people who worked on Super Mario RPG kind of created like Superstar Saga as intended to be like a spiritual successor to the original Super Mario RPG, because when they developed Paper Mario, that was the Intelligent Systems, who were kind of filling in for Square at the time, who developed the original. Whereas the developers of these games is Alpha Dream, which was originally I believe, second-party developer for Nintendo. Rest in peace. They sadly went bankrupt a few years back. But they were founded by several former Square employees, and a number of them worked on the Mario and Luigi series over the years. So this toad here is just telling us that the village is going to top this mountain here, which is a village called Holly Jolly Village. It's kind of a Christmas-themed village. Has been taken over by these aliens who are just kind of sucking in all of the residents. You might see a few weird results of flicker effects. This game is captured at 30 frames per second on DS capture cards, but it runs at 60. So like flicker effects that are meant to flicker every other frame will just be kind of solid. Anyways,
Interesting. We've been getting. Oh, sorry. We just got a little question from the chat asking about the art of this game. I've got to say, it looks great. They were wondering if these were like 3D models or just sprites.
Just sprites.
I imagine, yeah, like they look arty. I like the style. It's quite cool.
The visual style of this game is interesting. I think they did improve as the console went on. Like Bowser's Inside Story has a bit more fluid animation, a bit more aesthetic sense, but this game is just very colorful and very pleasant to look at, especially for an early DS game. So, kind of a neat little novelty, by the way. The aliens in this game, who we will henceforth refer to as the Shroobs, as that is what they're called in the English, or Gedonko, as opposed to Kinoko in Japanese. They have their own language. You kind of can pick up some very tiny bits and pieces. A recurring word that they like to say is destroy, or kesu, which just means annihilate. They're a very violent bunch. But the text, their strange little font exists in both languages. So here we're getting a tutorial on how to use items on the overworld. Also, I should probably mention stair glitch. So you're going to see Sway doing some very odd movement up stairs. If you tap perpendicular to the direction that you're going in the stairs, so if you're going left up the stairs, if you tap up or down, you actually move faster than if you're just walking up the stairs. So what you do is you tap down and then jump, and then you'll maintain your horizontal momentum when you tap left. So Sway's going to be like kind of awkwardly like sidestepping, jumping to get up those stairs. It saves a little bit amount of time, and it's one of the.
If anyone's familiar with like speedruns with Paper Mario: The 1,000-Year Door, it's basically like speed swapping, like the same idea as that, I think.
If you're familiar with Superstar Saga, it's there as well.
Yep.
Yeah, so basically everyone in this village has been kidnapped, and we need to basically bust the mayor, who tried to hide himself, but he ended up doing so by getting himself stuck in the chimney. As an aside, I like the sprite work. I like this. This toad looks like a Santa Claus toad, which is kind of funny. So we bust him out. Unfortunately, he is immediately captured because the Shroobs kind of run this place. We are just here as spectators. So somebody's mentioning the OST in chat. The soundtrack of this game, as well as all of the Mario and Luigi RPGs and Mario, like Super Mario RPG for the SNES, which shoutouts to the remake of that, all composed by the great Yoko Shimomura, also famous for games like Live Alive, Parasite Eve, Legend of Mana, and Kingdom Hearts. She has and a good amount of the first Xenoblade. She is very prolific. But she does a good job of kind of capturing this, like... She has like a very distinct sound with how most of her compositions work. But like you can recognize her tune. Like there are several tunes even in this game you can be like, oh, that's definitely a Shimomura tune. But she does a really good job. So yeah, unfortunately we're not able to deal with any of these Shroobs here. And this is a timed fight where you're supposed to get knocked out. So sadly, the adult Mario Brothers take the L here.
Yeah, I don't know. I was feeling confident today that maybe today would be the day I'd finally win this fight. But
yeah, I believe in the... I don't know if you can. I always forget if you can in the Japanese version, but I know in the North American version you can take one of them out, but it's like... It's one of those fights that's a program loss. Even if you hack the game to like defeat all three of them, the game just crashes because it's not really programmed to have a response. So here we find out that after Baby Mario and Baby Luigi, Baby Rage, by the way, most annoying sound in this game is Baby Peach.
Toad's routine is sweet time to crawl in.
I don't recall if this is the first game that introduced Baby Peach, but it is one of the greatest mistakes this game ever made. And unfortunately, we have to live with it in the Mario Kart games now. But yeah, so basically the castle gets utterly destroyed, and Bowser Jr., or not Bowser Jr., it's Bowser Jr.'s sprite, but it's supposed to be Baby Bowser, which, if you've played like old school Yoshi's Island or Yoshi's Story, they use a model that is similar to a character who would later be known as Koopa Kid in those days, but nowadays Bowser Jr. Baby Bowser just uses Bowser Jr.'s sprite. I'm not entirely sure why they did it, but Baby Bowser managed to escape with his crew and kidnapped the princess basically for the first time, and had to take Mario and Luigi along with him because the castle was lost. So he's flying his airship and he's trying to take out the Shroobs pursuing him in this case. You see, Bowser, Baby Bowser, is a very cocky little brat in this game. So we catch word of adult Mario and adult Luigi and the attack on Holly Jolly Village. Bowser, being a very selfish person, just says, I'm not gonna deal with any of this. And of course, Baby Peach does not like the sound of that. So I can't actually hear the game audio right now, but like anytime I see that sprite, I'm like, I can just hear it in my head. Like I don't need to hear it in my ears, because Baby Peach's crying sound is like ingrained somewhere in the back of my temporal lobe.
Oh dear.
Alright, so in order to shut her up, Bowser drops us off and says, here, go take care of things, save the people of the village. Turns out only Mario and Luigi are even left. And although we took care of one of the little Shroobs, still have to take care of two more. And this fight here is a tutorial on this game's form of special attacks. It's also a tutorial on how to use Baby Luigi in combat, again, using the two face buttons adjacent to the A and B buttons. Toadsworth here gives us the bros attacks, which are green shells. In this case, you just kind of kick it like a soccer ball. You press the button of the baby right as the shell comes up on them. You can do up to 16 hits. I believe in this particular fight, as long as you don't mess up, you should be able to just take care of the two Shroobs in one turn. There are going to be 10 different types of bros attacks in this game, and I think they realized in Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga that bros attacks were really cheap in that game, and so you were just more or less spamming them the entire way through. So to try and figure out how that they were going to handle it, in this game they come in the form of items, which has its ups and downs. Bros attacks in this game are very unbalanced, and we'll get to that later on in the run. So Toadsworth regaling the tale of how the Shroobs came to basically take over the entire Mushroom Kingdom and have been abducting the residents for reasons unknown. Well, it's just like shooting things, because they're a fun-loving bunch. And by fun-loving bunch, I mean destruction-loving bunch, because the one word everyone knows they just love to say is just destroy.
What's fun without a little bit of destruction?
Yeah. I don't know. One of the things that I really appreciate about the Shroobs as like an antagonistic force in this game is you see that they have kind of a little bit of a whimsical sense in cutscenes. They're not entirely business. They can laugh, they can enjoy themselves, but they're definitely like a threat to take seriously. Kind of actually a little funny thing to note is you only ever fight like a default form Shroob in the tutorial fight. There's all manner of like there's like an entire chain of command of different like variations on the Shroob enemies in this game.
Okay, are we going to get a lore drop at some point, or
Not especially. The Shroobs sadly are not particularly lore intensive, but I don't think they quite need to be. Most of it's taken care of in the intro section, where it's like they really need to find a new planet. I can't quite remember if it's suggested that like they need to, or if it's just kind of in their nature to conquer. It's something of that sort. Anyways, we see on the top screen here the princess of the Shroobs, which Shroobs, although they are an antagonistic force that we can't quite understand, they do pack quite a bit of intelligence. Something you kind of come to realize. She's basically revealing that, we're here to take over your world, and just kind of gloat and laugh at us, and then just sends a bomb at us. And unfortunately, Bowser used all of the ammo in his cannon and immediately proceeds to fire his pilots for overusing it, despite the fact that Bowser ordered them to fire the cannon as often as they did. Bowser is very petulant and very, not very forward-thinking. Alright, so we are now finally done with the fully, deterministic portion of this run. There is little things you can do to optimize here and there. Optimize your mashing, optimize your stair jumps, make sure that you take care of the Shroobs in one shell, but this is sort of the first, dungeon of the game where you're really left to your own devices, and this is where we can start to really pick up on the speedrun. So one thing you're going to see is Sway's going to go after certain chests, which in this game, in the Mario and Luigi series, is typically item blocks. It's a bit unfortunate falling off the ledge there. You can optimize this by corner jumping and,
Oh, come on.
Yeah, you can make that jump there, which saves a little bit of time, just having a bit of trouble.
Okay.
So Sway's picking up item blocks along the way because he wants to get as many green shells as he can for a glitch that we're going to be doing later when it comes to item manipulation. Anyways, here we are finally going to meet up with the baby versions of ourselves. And that is kind of the core gimmick of this game. We team up with the child versions of ourselves to take care of things. Now, Baby Mario and Baby Luigi are going to be more of a supporting type in this game. The way that they're handled in the game is Mario and Luigi give them piggyback rides. So Mario and Luigi take the adult Mario and Luigi. If I say Mario and Luigi, assume that I am talking about adult, and I will specify the baby version, just for posterity's sake. Mario and Luigi will be the ones who take the most damage because the babies have extremely low defense and extremely low offense as well. So they're more supporter type. If one of the adults goes down, the babies kind of take their place on the battlefield, and they're much squishier. So usually your main objective is to get the adults back, especially because most bros attacks in this game severely benefit, if not outright require you to have all four of them alive. But yeah, the babies are typically pretty helpless. The one thing you can do is you can actually basically throw them to reach hard-to-reach places on the overworld. And so that's their main function in this game is, you see a high-up ledge that you can't get to, you can just throw them up there and they can take care of something. A recurring gag you'll see in this game.
Only talking about it within the game context. Is it perfectly sane to just be like, oh yeah, we're throwing the babies during this run?
We're throwing our children's selves around. Yep.
Are we just?
Yes. A recurring gag you'll see in this game is Luigi is very bad at babysitting. He's trying to amuse his child self, and he's very bad at it. But also Baby Luigi is more of a crybaby. You can kind of see that's a thing from his childhood, because Luigi's always been kind of the bigger crybaby of the two. I'm still of the opinion that Luigi is the better bro, but I don't know, they're kind of just adorable in this game. The adults, the babies. The babies are kind of too. They're a little precocious, but they're also kind of annoying at the same time. I don't know. They have the funny crying sound effects. They're not like Baby Peach, where it's designed to be as absolutely just unbearable as possible.
They knew what they were doing.
Yep. And the sound of a crying infant is a very compelling one. For better and for worse. But yeah, this whole section is kind of a tutorial for how to navigate in the overworld, like when you separate the adults from the babies. A lot of screens will end with these 4 character panels where you need to have all 4 and you have to reunite them to move on. Same with these pipes. We're trying to get to a pipe at the very top left. So this is Kamek, the esteemed Magic Koopa from Yoshi's Island who kidnapped Mario or who kidnapped baby Luigi as an infant at the start of the plot of Yoshi Story. And he's looking for Bowser, who went missing in the crash when they crash landed at his castle. And he finds us, and he kind of recognizes that he does not like us because of the events of Yoshi Story. So Sway is going to deliberately fail this minigame here, because if you leave this Goomba to be alive, when Kamek comes about here to summon an additional ad, he would normally summon another Goomba who is at full HP. But if you leave the Goomba with just enough HP, you can take it out in one jump and skip basically a turn of having to do damage to finish off the Goomba. So minor optimization to this fight here.
Also, because someone in my chat last night pointed out to me, I must point it out now. Like, in the overworld, you encounter this fight as a Goomba, but the opening enemy is a Boo.
Yeah, there's some oddities here and there. So we get to Luigi to level 2 here, get our power up. And now we're gonna see kind of a bit of an oddity with this game. If you ever like switch control between the babies and the adults whenever an enemy is right on top of them, or in this case when they throw it right into the face of an enemy, the enemy has like starts to blink, because you're not supposed to like switch and then accidentally trigger an encounter. There's sort of a failsafe. So if you just throw the babies into an enemy's face, you can just circumvent the encounter there. That's why you threw it directly into the Boo and still didn't get an encounter, because you're shifting control like the frame that they make contact with the Boo enemy. For that particular screen, you need to be moving exclusively in the 4 cardinal directions. Going diagonal kind of messes things up. So here's a tutorial on the simultaneous blocks here. Really annoying text skip, because you have to manually tap right every time Stuffwell says, "Are you sure?"
Something so important he has to ask 3 times.
So yeah, like the block might seem invisible. The blocks flicker at like 30 hertz, which means that they'll either appear solid or invisible. It's kind of a weird little visual effect of capturing this game. So just solving the remaining puzzles here, making sure we don't get into an encounter with this cannon shy guy. And then finally we're getting into the first of 3 dark rooms. I believe there's 4 in the game casually, but we're going to skip one of them. So Sway, do you know how to... Oh, he's going for it. Completely in the dark. Bravo. First try. That is
Let's
fantastic.
go.
So,
Nice.
In the dark rooms, what you do is you throw the babies in there, and then you'll switch to the adults, hit a switch, and then that will light up the room for a few seconds. That's how you're supposed to do that. But the rooms are always laid out the same. If you practice enough, you can figure out how to deal with each dark room without having to actually light it up.
Yeah, that's the only one that I do fully blind.
Yeah, it's kind of just, what separates like the good runners from the great runners is just practicing stuff like that to minimize the amount of times you need to reveal the what's going on there. Back at RPG Limit Break 2018, I ran this game with Snowy on, who had the record in this game for probably a good 6 years. And we tried to do that like 2-player, as in one of us on the D-pad, one of us on the face buttons, without looking, and we did not practice it. So that was one of the more interesting things I've had to do. So if you go off course, you just hit a spike pit and you have to start over. So it's a minor time loss if you fall off. It's not a big deal, but it is, still a time loss. So if you can do it first try like that, it saves time. But if you fail it, like, I think at least once, it's just better to hit the switch. Anyways, back to the future. Hey, I said the thing. So I did make mention of Snowy on there. So I kind of need to give kind of the shout outs to the people who kind of have carved the path for this game and its history. The absolute OG, the legend that we have to thank for a whole bunch of stuff with this game would be Anwanu, a Brazilian runner who was kind of the pioneer and sole speedrunner of this game for an extremely long time, back when DS capture cards were way less abundant, more expensive, and kind of a niche thing to own. So he was the one who did the very first speedruns of this game, came up with the early routes, so kind of just the original legend of this game. And ran this game quite a few times. Did get in on kind of the more glitchy version of the run that we have now at first, but hasn't really run this game too much since. But definitely, there's still a lot of things in this game's route that he had his footprint on. This game is kind of weird in that its history is a whole lot of not a lot of things, and then all of a sudden everything happened all at once. So we'll get into that briefly. So at this point, we kind of realized that in the past, in Bowser's Castle, we found a shard of the Cobalt Star, which was the power supply of the time machine that the princess went back in. So we caught a piece of it and we're like, well, it seems like probably the most sensible thing to do is to collect all the different pieces of the star. And it seems like the star is pointing to the rest of itself because it kind of wants to recomplete itself. There's an explanation for that, but we won't get too into it just yet. But it sort of creates the wormhole or the time hole, as it's called, that we can use to warp to the next area of the game at a different point in the past. Here we have the two Toadsworths, conversing with each other. Older Toadsworth, very confused at why the princess was turned into an infant, as it turns out. Younger Toadsworth and Baby Peach, more or less, come to the future with us because it's the only way out of Bowser's Castle, and they stay here to basically stay out of danger because we don't need 2 kidnapped princesses, let's be real. So this is Vim Forest in the past. This is first of all, it's an area with really cool music. So you're picking up the Bros Flowers there, which are the Fire Flowers Bros attack. And we're going to get a bit of insight into what's going on with this particular place. This is probably, in my opinion, one of the most morbid areas in the entirety of the Mario franchise, the entire franchise, not just the RPGs. As it turns out, the trees here like to grab onto the toads, and what it does is effectively sucks out their vim, which is sort of it's a word that's similar to vigor, vitality, their enthusiasm, their energy, their spunk, their moxie, that kind of stuff. And it's being sucked out and brought to a factory in the center of the forest for an unknown reason, which we'll find out later is they're literally using it as a fuel source, which is like really morbid if you think about it. It's like literally sucking the joy and the energy out of these toads and using it as fuel. So this toad here is giving us kind of the backstory of what all is going on. She was from the future and went back with the princess at the beginning of the game, before, you know, escaping and getting caught here. It's a recurring theme in this game anytime that a character's about to tell us something important, a shroob shows up and ruins things. That is what happens here. But we need to make our way to the center of Vim Forest first. So, picking up a few more rose flowers here and there. They're a really useful rose attack for this portion of the game. They also get into elemental damage, which there is fire and ice bros items in this game, which do come into play here and there. So the first thing we need to do, and I'm going to do my very brief little Smokey the Bear announcement. Only you can prevent forest fires. Please don't cause forest fires. With the exception of the handful of times which have ever occurred ever, which is to say, not anything relevant to you when you might actually need to cause a forest fire. So we need to cause a forest fire here to burn down a series of trees that are in the way. This way, doing some very careful enemy dodges here because you have a very tight corridor and the babies don't jump very high, so you can go through this entire screen without dodging enemies. It's not free. It's something that does take a little bit of practice. So I'm just finishing up this little portion here. As I was kind of alluding to earlier, in the year 2017, the speedrunning community for this game was like 3 of us. There was me, Anwinu, and another runner by the name of Onasu. And we had been playing this game mostly glitchless. There's really only one glitch, which will be coming up a little after the first break, a little after an hour into the run. And then like one other skip in the final dungeon, but this game is mostly skipless and glitchless. And then all of a sudden, 2 runners slash glitch hunters by the name of Really Tall and Solidified Gaming came over from the Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door scene. I'm sure you're familiar with them, Sway, from your time with Thousand Year Door.
Maybe a little.
But yeah, so they had utterly shattered that game along with the likes of Malio. And so they kind of came over to Partners in Time, which we had basically said had been pretty unbroken. And they helped absolutely shatter this game. And this is the first instance of a speedrun glitch that they helped discover. I believe this one was Solidified Gaming. Most of Tall's findings were on the US version, but he did have a bit of influence on the route of any percent as well. But yeah, so there's a frame right as Mario makes contact with the spikes there, where you can switch to the babies, and then when we switch back to the adults, Mario can then walk on the spikes, and then in doing so, you can effectively do this entire area in reverse. So doing that saves about a minute because you don't have to wait on any platform cycles in this area. You don't have to deal with like the auto-scroller potions or the parts where you have to throw the babies into one of the trunks in order to deal with, you know, a separate puzzle. You just kind of circumvent this entire area by doing it in reverse. Excuse me. So that is the first of the like significant glitches. It is far from the last, let me tell you. But yeah, I cannot overstate the impact that the various different glitches that Tall and Solidified Gaming had on the run of this game. They kind of came in 2017 and just like within the span of a couple months, it was just like, you know, every day I was looking at my phone in the morning, checking the Discord app to see, did they find something new again? And sure enough, it was, you know, new discovery on the US version. Can we apply this to some of the other versions? Yes, no, maybe. Sometimes we would even have skips. It's like they patched this out of the from the North American version out of the game, but like a different version exists in the Japanese and European versions, which
Oh, wow.
it's just weird. So here we get to a fight that wonderfully ages this game. In the Japanese version of the game, these Hammer Bros here who are wearing this helmet, they're sort of the guards of the factory here at the center of the Vim Forest. They speak in like a robotic type of speak. In Japanese, that comes in the form of all of their text boxes use katakana, which is a script predominantly used for loan words. If a character is typing with that, it's usually a sign that there is something wrong with them. In the North American version, not only do they not speak in the typical like all caps, but they speak in leet speak, which is very 2004. So wonderfully ages this game. But here we have the Bros Flower, or Fire Flower. The way it works is it kind of passes back and forth to me, to you, to me, to you on the babies. You kind of want to hope to see a lucky, because there's a chance that you can end this fight in 2 turns rather than 3. It normally takes 5 Bros Flowers, but if you get lucky, you can do it in 4. So it is actually important you don't mash this as fast as you possibly can. There is like a frame buffer, like you can only input like 1 input every 7 frames, I believe. Migu would know. Migu was responsible for the first and second tasks of this game. The first task being like 3 hours and 50 minutes, and the second task being under 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
Like, the glitches cut this game in half. It used to be any percent was about 4 hours and just a touch under 20 minutes. Now any percent's record is 235. It was held by Snowy On for a solid 5-6 years almost. And then recently was broken by a Japanese runner by the name of Reef. Unfortunate not getting quite the timing on the 4 there for Baby Luigi's level up. But yeah, so Mario and Luigi were taken away by a strange tree nose looking device, and we had to do that fight with the babies. Because these are Hammer Bros, they give us the hammers. Pretty standard, typical overworld ability. You press R on the DS and you can use the hammers with the babies in this game. Normally you have to throw the babies and then they can break stuff with the hammer. But they're the ones who get that sort of overworld ability. But yeah, we're going to do the first portion of this dungeon with just the babies. So, I believe we have it slotted that we'll have 2 5-minute breaks for this run. So after this dungeon, there will be a series of scenes, and that would probably be the best point to take the first break. This game actually is segmented in a nice little way like that.
Oh, nice. Got you.
So, I think this is the only platform that you specifically need just the babies to stand on. It's kind of a funny little thing there. But yeah, definitely have to give a shout outs to Migu, who not only did the task work on this game, but also has helped find a lot of the different discoveries. Not too often was he somebody who initially discovered something, but he would also be somebody who he often was somebody who would find a consistent setup that would work in real time, or just a setup that would make things considerably more easy. So he's definitely a huge influence on the route there. Typically, there's been quite a few marathon runs where Snowy On would run this game back when he was much more active, and Migu and myself, and we would just kind of be like the 3 musketeers on it. So this is another room kind of like what I'm talking about. Any sort of room with a weird corner geometry, you can kind of like wedge yourself into and clip out of bounds. There was a different clip in that room from the North American version of this game that strangely got patched. So we just found another corner that we could clip through and just circumvent that entire room. That room has a tutorial on how to use how to use the hammer in combat. So skipping that tutorial is a nice time save.
Nice.
Anyways,
Luigi's so happy.
I mean, to be fair, these are their past selves. If anything happens to their past selves, they're kind of in trouble. So
That's a good point. That is a good point.
So here we're getting a tutorial on how to use the hammers in combat with the adults. The action command is particularly funny because they extend their arms and they swing the baby versions of themselves like a hammer. I love the like animations in this game. They're just so much fun. But using hammers is slow, so we're just gonna pull out a Burrow's Flower and take care of these enemies, which thankfully you should guaranteed get a kill here.
Nice.
Somebody asked, does anyone even run the NA version? Not really. I don't think anyone's touched the NA version for like actual real-time speedruns of this game since probably 2012, back when Anwanu did a run on SDA. He quickly got the Japanese version, which I haven't really talked too heavily on the version differences besides the glitches. The number one reason we run this game on a version other than the US version, because the US version would actually be faster in terms of glitches, but the number one reason we're doing this on Japanese, or really any version other than North American, is because a lot of bosses in this game are infamous for being quite health sponges. The final boss of this game in particular has 3 phases that combine for, I want to say, like 8,500 HP. It's ridiculous. So Sway is just doing an extra fight here to get a little bit more levels on the babies because it's to save time on the next fight. This is a nice little quick fight that you can just take care of for EXP. And because he got a 1 on the power level up here, baby Luigi is going to be able to get some nice catch-up strength. So on the North American version of the game, the final boss across its 3 different phases is about 8,500 HP. They toned it down to about 5,500. So each phase cutting off like more than 1,000 HP. It is a significant difference. There's a whole bunch of other rebalancing of things, such as how much individual like rose attacks, or not rose attacks, how much individual like rose items cost. Here we have another glitch. This is called ledge clip. If you get like 1 pixel underneath any sort of ledge, and then you stack either the babies or the adults, which we'll get that ability later. When they stack, they kind of just, the like height value of the stack of the babies is like too high for the ledge, so they just zip right up onto the top of the ledge, and this allows them to kind of just clip to a higher elevation and just skip a pretty lengthy little puzzle on that room there. To answer the question in chat, did the Japanese version come out after the North American version? As I did mention at one point at the start of the run, yes, that is the case. All versions other than the North American version are based on the Japanese version, except we hypothesize maybe the Korean version has some slight differences. That's unfortunate getting into that encounter there. Trying to dodge enemies in this game can be real annoying. And because we're doing this at such low levels, the speed of our party members is pretty low, which means enemies will tend to go first. Yeah, so for Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga and Mario & Luigi Partners in Time, the Japanese version came after the North American version. I believe this was swapped, starting with Bowser's Inside Story, and I think Paper Jam was a simultaneous release, but I might be mistaken on that. Anyways, a lot of this game just comes down to optimizing how you switch between the babies and the adults for their respective portions, and just knowing how to dodge and deal with enemies. We're coming up on the boss of the Vim factory here, which is going to be Swiggler, a shrew version of Wiggler, who is basically sucking up the liquid concentrated form of the Vim that has been being harvested by the various different toads, and is being just injected very... I don't know, this scene looks a little weirder than it should be. But he's basically serving as the power converter from the Vim into the fuel that is powering the various flying saucers. As the adults go to inspect what's going on, the babies just decide that they're going to wreck things. There's a lot of destruction in this game. We kind of love it. Swiggler is not too happy to see that his drink is being knocked out from in front of him. So here we have the boss. This boss has 200 HP, and keeping track of that HP is very good. Now, one of the little optimizations with this get fight, we want to see gray shrooms here, so hopefully, okay. The first gimmick to this fight is that the shrooms on the side will pull out mushrooms, and whatever mushroom gets tossed into Swiggler's drink will change the fight. If a red one gets tossed in there, he heals, which is really annoying, so we want to see gray mushrooms. We do not want to accidentally end up knocking in any of the red mushrooms, but if he drinks a gray mushroom, A, he cannot counterattack, and B, he turns green, which means that we can do a lot more damage.
Okay.
So since 2 of them were pulled out, we can just pull out a Bros Flower, which is usually the most effective form of damage. The damage of Bros Flowers is somewhat calculated based on your stats, but it has a minimum amount of damage that it does. Do you remember how much you did on the first Bro Flower Sway?
I think Sway's definitely in focus mode.
Oh, nice. That's a good lucky.
Nice.
So this fight is 200 HP. You really want to keep track of how much damage that you are doing with your Bros Flower.
I got a lucky hit on that first turn that kind of threw me off.
Yeah. So he's going to do a jump here and then just do a Bros Flower. This is to get rid of the red mushroom.
Nice.
If you do end up with a turn, which is usually pretty inevitable in most runs, if you do end up with a turn where both of them pull out red, you'll want to switch to cannonballers. The other reason you want to keep track of how much damage that you're doing to the boss is that if you do a cannonballers on the green Swiggler, it does the most damage. So you kind of want to figure out what the kill threshold is for this fight. Otherwise, you can make this fight take longer than it needs to. So cannonballers, pretty simple technique. All 4 of the party members shoot into the sky and then land on the boss's head in a particular sequence that you just have to press. In this case, Baby Mario, Luigi, Baby Luigi, Mario, X, B, Y, A. I apologize. I probably shouldn't be saying inputs while you're doing them because of the stream delay. But yeah. So here he's just not bothering with the Professor Shroobs, Dr. Shroobs on the side. Because what they're going to do is eat the mushrooms themselves instead of feeding it into the drink of Swiggler. And then they're going to grow buff, and he's got to do a counterattack here. A little unfortunate. There's a 2-frame window when Swiggler switches out, or spits out this smoke here, that you can hammer it and get 2 hits on it. Usually you have to hit the smoke twice to prevent yourself from taking damage. But we are very low defense at this point, so many of these attacks will either 1 or 2 shot us. So it really comes down to just getting good at the dodges in this game. I have not been keeping track of damage. I should probably make sure to do that for the final boss. Every now and then you can get a lucky, which is basically this game's form of critical hits. Which, the only Bros attack I believe that... Well, actually no. You can get a lucky on basically every Bros attack, but this is definitely one of the fights where getting a lucky impacts you the most. The only exception is if you hit a boss's weakness. You can't lucky on top of hitting the weakness, which does critical damage or double damage, basically. So here he's watching the top screen to make sure to dodge, although that attack is so timing-based that you can probably just press both buttons at the same time. Most bosses in this game have a, like, telegraph for their individual attacks. Alright. I don't think I've ever seen him run out of bro flowers on this fight. So, should be really close to, finishing the boss off here. Does a just quick jump on the shroop here because he doesn't have a fire flower to take care of things. So, I haven't been keeping track of the exact damages, but you should be close enough to kill it in 1 or 2 cannonballers.
I think it is.
If not, that would be really unfortunate because then you have to resort to green shells. Bit of a flashing light warning on boss kills. The bitrate also tends to get absolutely destroyed. So yeah, this fight is one where the strength of the babies actually does come into play. Eventually, it's really just not going to matter that much. But yeah, that's why he took that extra encounter. Baby Luigi had gotten like perfect strength on the tutorial fight, and he got the 4 on the level up there. Then that fight probably would have went a little smoother. But yeah, just getting through a whole bunch of level ups here. Well, we're making good time ending this part just under an hour here. We've collected our second Cobalt Star shard, and this little menace here just decided that he's going to distract us for a solid 20 seconds before literally spinning the shards out of us and just grabbing them to take as his own personal treasure, and then run away, because Bowser is just kind of a smug little gremlin. So to touch a little bit on the different stats, because somebody has mentioned stats, HP, defense, power, those are pretty obvious. There's speed, which determines order, which speed actually does come into play in a couple fights in this game because you have an attack that can slow bosses. And then you have stash, which affects your chances of getting a crit or a lucky. And it also affects, the higher your stash is, the better your... you get like a little discount for sales because the salesmen like your mustache. Alrighty, so we are done with the second scenario of this game, and I think that would be time for a break.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, we will pause the timer there, and we will, as you heard, folks, we're going to be having a little wellness break, just an opportunity to get up, have a little stretch. If you have the capacity to do so, make sure that you're staying hydrated. If you're feeling hungry, get some snacks. I've got some sweet chili coated peanuts on the side at the moment. But do stay, make sure you're taking care of yourself. Reminder that not only are we, we have installed the rest of this run. After Going Places, we're going to be having the Grudge match, which, as described, is apparently featuring solving disputes with races where the points are definitely not made up. And then after that, there will also be the newly released hotfix show, Parallel Universe, a show about fan games and mods, which will be featuring Celeste custom level packs, apparently. Yeah, we love a little bit of Celeste over here. But in the meantime, we have got some more Mario and Luigi happening after a little intermission, a little break. We will be seeing you after that for some more. What's good, folks? Welcome back. I hope you had a lovely break. We are back for some more action on Going Places. Just a reminder that this is the Games Done Quick hotfix, where we go around the speedrun landscape. We have a look at games that we can take on the go. We will obviously play it on handheld or portable devices of some sort, as well as games that we travel far away to have a go with, region-exclusive games. And we've been having a lovely showing of Mario and Luigi, Partners in Time so far, but just to round you up with a little more action of what's happening over on this channel, Frame for Towels is Games Done Quick's all-women online speedrunning community. The upcoming event Flame for Towels will run from August the 13th to the 20th, and the schedule is now out at gamesdonequick.com/schedule. While you're checking out the schedule, feel free to submit a prize for the event. You can use !FF in the Twitch chat to submit your prizes. The last day to submit prizes will be the August the 6th. Oh, so it's coming up. You better be quick on that. But yeah, we're also hiring as well. So if you have any experience in social media creation and want to help out at our live events, be sure to go to gamesdonequick.com/jobs to apply. That's job opening, but Sway has still got a job to do with this game. So I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm going to let him let us know when we can start the timer again and we can see some more lovely RPG action.
All right. Are you ready for countdown?
Mm-hmm.
3, 2, 1, go.
So we're going to be
Good luck again.
very briefly getting back to the swing of things. Just finished up the Vim Factory scenario, and we're going to be heading on to Yoshi's Island next. First, we talked to Professor Egad, who just reveals that the time continuum has gone kind of wild. So a whole bunch of time holes are going to open up. One of them is going to be the next area that we're supposed to go to, but we can't quite get there yet. We need a special ability to do so. You can get to the one on the top of the, you can get to the desert, the one like near the top of the castle, but it's like basically TAS only. It's extremely difficult to get there early. There's no real reason to do so at this point. And Sway's going to be doing a glitch here, which we just simply refer to as money glitch. As the name suggests, it is a glitch that allows us to get more money. So what he's going to do is he's going to throw the babies so that they can quickly get to the save points. If you're going for like a perfect possible run, we'd probably not do this, but kind of need to save for this. We even do this in regular runs. So he's going to sell everything he has other than the green shells. Literally everything that he has. But he has, he's going to buy a badge and then buy as many green shells as he can with his remaining money. So what we're going to do is sell all of our green shells. And when you sell all of your green shells, there is a 1 frame input where you can tap confirm, and then the game, or so you're going to sell a badge first, actually, and there's a 1 frame input where the menu still treats it as if you are, let's see if you can do this. Not. So he's going to do a soft reset here. This is one of the advantages to running on Japanese. But there's a single frame in this 60 frame game, frame per second game, where you can sell the green shells for the price of the badge that he just sold. Because the game still treats the menu as if he's about to sell the badge, but he sells the next item in the selling list for the cost of the badge. Hold on, I gotta sneeze here a second. Or not, apparently. But yeah, this is pretty much the only glitch that has been in this game's route. Oh, there we go. So yeah, now he's just selling all the shells for 100 coins each. Gonna buy some auxiliary items here just for safekeeping. A bunch of bro flowers, because there's a fight where those come in handy. A bunch of ice flowers, and a few cannonballers for good measure. He will need this money a little bit later for additional stuff. Now, the convenient part here of the save block is it's located right near the south area of the castle. I don't know if you call this like the quad or the entrance or what have you. We don't really go out of the castle in the present, But this is the trigger for the scene where we get 2 different Bros abilities. In this case, Adult Mario and Adult Luigi get some inspiration watching the 2 Toadsworths try to sate baby Peach and get her to stop crying. And so they stand on top of each other and then just spin around like a tornado. The adults get the idea to do Spin Bros here, which was an ability that was also in Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, but effectively it works the same way there. Whenever you have the 2 adults, you can put Luigi on top of Mario and then just spin across any sort of gap. This will also allow them to perform ledge clip as well, although I don't recall if any percent has the adults do the ledge clip at any point. It's in all bosses. All bosses is effectively our do the game mostly as intended. There's still a lot of glitches, but you still fight every boss, which forces you to go to every area in the game. So it's sort of our like hybrid do basically every intended scenario in this game, just while also allowing glitches. And nobody's ever done really any real work on a glitchless category. That would just basically be the old any percent minus money glitch. He's not even.
We will
bother.
actually be doing ledge clips in this next area.
Yep. Right. I forgot. I was gonna say. There are a few in the old Toad Town scenario, which we will not be doing because you can skip a huge chunk of this game, which we'll get to not too long after Yoshi's Island. But yeah, so he has the adults, and because he jumped in the warp hole without carrying the babies, they're already separated, so he doesn't have to. You can do a very little ledge clip on here, and then just get on top of the house. And so that skips the very lengthy introduction cutscene of Yube. So Yube is just Yoshi Shroob. There's also a cutscene that happens if you walk into this building, so ledge clipping here skips quite a lengthy scenario. So yeah, once again, getting just like 1 pixel underneath the ledge there, stacking the adults, which is the only pixel that it actually lets you do that on, and then it just zips them on top of whatever Luigi is clipping into, because they don't want you getting out of bounds in this game. Even though, spoiler warning, we do get out of bounds. So this is Yoshi's Island. You hear the Yoshi's Island music play here when you get here for the first time. Basically, there's no Yoshis to be found. They're hiding up in this house here. And as soon as you discover them, this giant pink Yoshi that has been like created by the Shroobs called Yube comes in, scares them all out, and what Yube does is he just runs around eating Yoshis. Which, as somebody who is a big fan of Yoshi, I still have a green Twitch name in chat, in Twitch chat, specifically because of Yoshi. That makes me very sad.
That's no good.
That makes me very sad to hear.
This cannot be tolerated.
Yeah, so Kamek here gets really upset at the sight of us, and so he just tries to start burning down Yoshi's Island. You're supposed to do this like puzzle where you put out the fires and then activate these blocks, which activate these red, green, and blue blocks, which are flickering on the top screen, but sometimes they'll either be invisible or static. You'll see. But you can just circumvent all of this with something that is called top screen storage. I believe this was discovered by Solidified Gaming, but what you do is you get one of the babies onto the Switch here. And you can walk off the side, and if only one of them are on the Switch, they can clip onto the Switch. Wow, you're going for this blind? You are crazy. Okay, so that just skips that entire area. So
let's go.
So what you do is you get one of the babies on top of the Switch. Like so there's these like springs where you get two of the there's these springs where you get the babies. You're supposed to have them both jump on. They launch up to the top screen to solve a puzzle. But what you can do is if you hit a screen transition right as the babies are doing this, which Sway buffers by spinning into the screen transition, he'll be doing it again here fairly soon, so you'll get another opportunity to see it. The babies will go to the top screen, but you'll be on a screen where they're not meant to be on the top screen, so when they come down, I believe their coordinates are set to 0, 0 because the game doesn't have anywhere else to put the babies when they come down, and the coordinate of 0, 0 on the X and Y axis is the very top left corner, which on that screen down there is allows him to just get to the top end of that screen on the Z axis, I believe, and then just hit the loading zone. You can kind of see what you're doing in order to do that, but Sway just did it completely blind, and just knew how long he had to hold down and right for in order to access the load zone to get to the top end of that screen and just circumvent the entire block puzzle. So here he's just doing fairly standard intended gameplay here of avoiding enemies. And there's another bit of top screen storage you can do on this particular screen. He's going to burrow underground here, mainly because the enemies here are really difficult to dodge. It's just faster to be in the ground than it is to like accidentally start an encounter and have to run away. Thankfully, because money glitch is a thing, we don't need to worry about running out of money. But once again, Sway here is going to do another instance of top screen storage. Once you activate that switch, you can actually spin jump into that trigger there, because there's a boss on that screen there. It's going to put the babies, clip Mario into the switch, set them up so that when he spins onto this load zone and then presses X, the babies will jump, hit the switch. They will go to the top screen on this screen where they're not supposed to be on the top screen. When they come down, they'll be on coordinate 0, 0, 0. Gonna hold. Oh, he did that blind too. There is a way you can see what you're doing there, but yeah, the babies are going to then access the east load zone on that particular screen. And that is going to circumvent the Kamek boss fight, which is a very annoying boss fight that if you access the right loading zone, you just activate the cutscene that happens after that fight, where we pursue Baby Bowser, who then proceeds to eat the Cobalt Star shards that he's collected. Meanwhile, in all of this, Yube has been climbing up the mountain here. We're trying to basically cause Bowser to spit out the Cobalt Star shards. And then Yube is climbing up the mountain here. You see him on the top screen, just having a good old time. And the Shrooms decide that they're going to screw with us. They put like some sort of amplification ray on him, and he's going to grow to absolutely gargantuan size. So you said we're fighting every boss. No, there is a category that fights every boss. That is all bosses. This category, any percent, only fights 4 of the 12 bosses that count under the definition of a boss for the sake of speedrun. But yeah, so you can just skip the Kamek fight here, which is really, really nice. It does make this cutscene a little janky, but yeah. So because Bowser was eaten, we kind of follow suit and also get eaten because we need to get those Cobalt Star shards back if we want to find the princess. Because it is very likely that finding the Cobalt Star will lead us to her. It's also shown that like the Shroobs react very violently to the Cobalt Star shards in one of the previous cutscenes. So it seeming to be their kryptonite is a good indicator that it's a good idea to find them. So we have now been consumed by Yube, who is now gargantuan. Something to briefly touch on, this screen that we're on right now actually has 2 versions, one with the path open and one with the path closed. This matters because you can actually zip out of bounds on this screen. It's quite difficult to do and only saves a very small amount of time. But if we could do that clip out of bounds, we could save a very lengthy portion of this screen. But unfortunately, we can't because this is treated as a separate instance of of this screen, basically. So we basically need to open up a path through his guts. But yeah, the dungeon is inside Yube. So welcome to, as somebody once elegantly referred to it as, this is Barney's inside story. So here we see this Yoshi who's been eaten by Yube. He is looking to push this stone to try and clear a path, which kind of gives us a hint as to what we're supposed to do. In this particular scenario, the first thing we need to do is save a bunch of other Yoshis. And this actually is kind of a neat little indicator of what we're supposed to do in an upcoming boss fight, where you're supposed to save a bunch of Yoshis in the fight. And then by freeing up enough of them, they will shoot a boulder at the boss. So it's kind of an interesting little bit of story and gameplay integration because we need to save a bunch of Yoshis in order to be able to progress through this dungeon. So here, just using the Mario drinks water. Baby Luigi hits him with the hammer to make him spit it out projectile. You can do that pretty much perfectly there by just, if you line up your position, you can guarantee the second shot there. So yeah, on the previous screen they picked up a fruit which they used to feed the starving Yoshi, and that's what gets him on board. I have not seen this route for this screen. It's very peculiar.
I did not want to get the little cutscene overlap with the fruit. I wanted to pick it up with the babies.
So these enemies here, I forget what their name is, but they control these little remote control robots. That's unfortunate. So if you manage to jump on one of them, it counterattacks. On the robot, it counterattacks the enemy. But they're weak to ice, so we do ice flowers here. If you get lucky or get like really good ice flowers there, you can guarantee a one-turn kill because I believe they have 78 health. So only having to do it once is nice. But yeah, since they're weak to ice, you can do most of their health in one go. And then the adults also get a very welcome level up because level ups and stats in this run are kind of at a premium. That's 3 Yoshi saved, on to number 4. And here we're going to do another instance of adult ledge clip. I forgot that this was also in here. Also avoiding the dry bones here, one of the more annoying enemies in this area. But he's going to zip onto a higher up plane, fall to an out of bounds area, and then walk back inbounds to talk to the Yoshi from behind that gate. The adults are stuck there, so he's going to finish off this part with the babies. Unfortunate lack of counterattack there, but that's fine. Very nice. So that, despite the fact that the babies have a lower strength, the flowers, generally the damage is determined by how many fireballs, or in this case, ice balls you throw at the enemy. So it doesn't particularly matter the strength stat. You'll guarantee to do a minimum amount of damage. And because that gets doubled from the critical, it works out to being able to one-shot that enemy. Something I haven't really touched on with the ice flowers, it hasn't been relevant yet, but they can inflict stat down, which is going to be very useful for a boss in particular fairly soon.
Not for the upcoming boss, but the one after that.
Yes, right. Technically, in the TAS, it never comes into play. In the all bosses TAS, it probably will. That's being worked on,
Oh yeah, true.
but not for any percent, because the any percent has a pretty different route in the tool assisted speedrun. So Yoshi's clear pathway through part of Yube's guts, I would assume. You're gonna go for the clip?
I don't know how to do it. Like, at least not consistently enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's very jank. I know Migu knows the setup, and we actually handed him the DS to do it at Limit Break in 2018. He was able to demonstrate it there. Like, there's a specific movement setup you can do it to guarantee it, but it's like really precise, and he's basically the only one who goes for it.
I remember Snowion was going for it for a while back.
Yeah, it's a very janky clip. It's one of the few clips in this game that I have discovered myself. I helped out with certain bits of routing, but I definitely have very minimal input on the glitches, and that's mostly because Tall, Migu, and SG just found so many things in this game. If not them, we also have the likes of Beastly N64 and Sir Lucas, who have also found a couple of different things. Not all of which have been applied to the run yet, but we've been scrounging for a couple of new glitches in this game. This game does still have some untapped potential in terms of speedrunning and finding new strats and glitches. Even though we have basically found this game's big holy grail, which will be coming up on that after the second break. One of the weird regional versions or variations of these games is, I believe, like the dark blue or the light blue Yoshi in this version is like black in the North American version.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's like there's some weird oddity where like one Yoshi was like black in the North American version, but like a lighter color in this version, like blue or pink. I don't remember exactly which one. It's kind of a shame because I think Yoshi looks really cool in black. You don't see that color palette on him very often. So yeah, careful enemy dodge there, and we're heading to the back end of Yube's gut, which is where we will find the exit out of him. You can use your imagination there, and B, the boss of this dungeon. So this is Toadbert. He was the second of the two Toads that went back in time with Princess Peach. He also got lost, ended up on Yoshi's Island, and he doesn't remember hardly anything about himself. Only just, he has this smudged sketch of what appears to be Princess Shroob and Princess Peach, with Peach pulling out the Cobalt Star. As kind of like a very crude sketch of like the quote-unquote battle that took place, but he doesn't really understand its meaning.
Oh yeah.
Because he has amnesia. He gets his memory back later, but we don't see that cutscene because we skip a large chunk of the second half of this game. Yeah, so as somebody has already in chat gotten a little bit hasty into, this is Sunnyside, but instead of S-I-D-E, it's C-I-D-E. It is an egg hermit crab kind of boss with tentacles. It's a very janky boss, but he's guarding the exit. Exit spelled E-G-G-S-I-T. But this is the place to get all of your egg puns out. Also, as it turns out, Bowser was was soaked into one of the sucked up into one of the machines and turned into an egg. But yeah, this boss's gimmick is all about eggs. I think he has, I can't remember if it's 450 or 500 health.
I think 450.
you really can't do very much damage to him. So at first, what he's gonna do is soften up the topmost egg because that's the last one that he throws. He needs to clear out a couple of eggs so that there are fewer targets for the ice flower to lock onto. But every time you free a Yoshi, it's going to create a conga line pushing a boulder on the top screen. And when you have 5 eggs that you break Yoshis out of, they throw the boulder at Sunnyside and flip him onto his, well, back. And his weakness becomes exposed, and he's weak to fire because, I mean, he's an egg monster. So that's kind of the gimmick to this fight. I also have to say, there's kind of an irony to this whole situation that I enjoy, which is that, I mean, even if it is kind of messed up. So Yoshis have been turning enemies into eggs for like a decade at this point, since like Yoshi's Island. I can't remember if you can turn an enemy to an egg in Super Mario World, Yoshi's debut, but I know you could in Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island. So you turn him into, so he turns enemies into eggs, but this is the first game where somebody turns Yoshi into an egg. So it's kind of a cruel little twist, or I suppose karma, if you will, depending on what your perspective is. But because there are no eggs on screen, it's just going to fire away on ice flowers. Unfortunately, because the boss's weakness is not exposed, you can't hit him with stat down. And yeah, this fight is not particularly difficult. It's quite time-consuming and subject to the whims of RNG on where your targeting is on your ice flowers, whether or not Sunnyside does the attack where he tries to suck you in versus whether he throws eggs at you, how many times he throws eggs at you, because he can throw it as few as I think 2 and as many as 4 on any given attack. So here we would want to see the hammer's attack. Unfortunate that he called forth.
Oh, now he gives it.
That's unlucky, yeah. Yeah, no, you can't counterattack the eggs here. Oh man, this is real unlucky. So he's trying to hit the threshold of what is this lug? This is awful. So he's trying to hit the threshold of there being as few eggs on the screen as possible. Or, sorry, he's trying to hit the threshold where there are 5 Yoshi eggs on the top screen, or Yoshis on the top screen, and that there are no eggs on the bottom screen here. So this is favorable right now. It took like 3 extra turns to get to this position. But he's going to have 3 opportunities to hit the boss with his weakness, which is fire. So you can do Bros Flowers 3 times, and it's going to do a pretty sizable chunk of damage. I mean, all things considered, Sway is doing really good with, like, executing on this. He's gotten most tricks first or second try. It's just the randomness component to this game, which isn't too plentiful, but is there, has just been exceptionally cruel. So yeah, you can basically do half of this boss's health during the span of time when you can hit him with his weakness. Otherwise, it's just, like, incidental damage of using ice flowers. So depending on how many eggs there are on screen will usually determine what course of action Sway takes. Since there's only 1 egg here, it's actually a good idea to use the ice flower, because he'll do okay damage to Sunnyside and then be able to do damage to the ice flower. And as we've seen, when an enemy runs out of health while you're doing a flower attack, you can no longer target it. Like, He's done 5 damage to the egg, or 4 damage. The egg has 29 HP. So now the rest of his flowers are going to hit the boss, and that is a nice lucky, which you can get on Sunny's side, and it's welcome because this fight has been terrible so far in terms of luck. We in the Partners in Time community have a bit of an expression, which is no hammers. Because we really don't like seeing the attack where he sucks us in. There are a handful of instances where it's good to see that. Usually there aren't. So he always goes from the bottom to the top, which usually means that the best egg to target is the one on top, because otherwise he's just going to throw an egg that we don't want him to throw at us if we target the one on the bottom. I think he's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does pay to count boss's health, which we haven't been doing. I will make sure to do so on the final boss for you. Because, yeah, that's definitely the hardest part of this run. Like, there's plenty of glitches, but the hardest part of this run is just surviving the final boss. So Sway's PB is a 239. Estimate is submitted as 255. Most of that buffer is like making sure we can deal with the final boss. I haven't been acknowledging them, but I've appreciated the egg puns I've seen a couple times in chat. So yeah, that's Sunnyside. We now have our exit out of Yube, who... It's not entirely made clear whether or not Yube is organic or, like, biological. I think... Or machine. I think he is, like, a hybrid of both. It's really weird. And not made particularly clear whether he's supposed to be, like, a creature or a machine, because he seems to have, like, a conscience. But he also, like... operates like a machine as you see him on his inside. But now that we've defeated Sunnyside and made our getaway, kind of just shuts off. If you want to, you can go back into Yube's belly at any time, and he's just kind of like sleeping. Thankfully, we can walk out of this closed door. Don't ask how. But yeah, there's a cutscene here. So originally, Bowser had a whole bunch of cookies. The reason that Kamek fights us is that Bowser has a whole bunch of cookies he's snacking on. And then the babies come in and eat all of his cookies. And so he sees us again. This is all in a skipped cutscene, by the way. He sees us again. And then he's like, I'm not going to let you eat the cookies. I'm going to eat all the cookies. And then he eats too much and gives himself a stomachache. And then he coughs back out the Cobalt Star Shards, which seem to not like to have been eaten. So they just knock him into the stratosphere. There is an explanation for why that happens, but that ends up getting into story stuff that happens a little bit later. Bowser basically took credit for saving the Yoshis, even though he basically did nothing, and that's why the Yoshis gave him a whole bunch of cookies. Toadberg here says that we were the true heroes, and then the Yoshis are just so delighted to like thank their savior. But now that we are all done with
though.
now that we are all done with Yoshi's Island, we can make our way to the rest of the game. first things first, I got to do a bit of a shopping trip. And so,
Getting any eggs from the shop?
alas, no. There is a bros item in this game called a smash egg. Unfortunately, it's the worst bros item in the game. So there's not really much reason to get it. You'll end up picking it up incidentally in the all bosses route, and we like to. There's some fights where you can burn a turn, and we like to meme. Oh, Sway forgot the red peppers. So the red peppers in this game are just a straight damage increase. In that shop, he also bought the Big POW badge, or Great POW badge, as it's called in the Japanese version. What that does is if you get a Great on a bros attack, your damage increases to, I think, 1.6 times.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Not all power-ups are created equal in this game. But yeah, so you get a Great on a bros attack, and your damage increases to 1.6 times. This doesn't stack with red peppers. We'll be getting something later that does stack with red peppers. So what what EGAD informs us is that the wormhole to Princess Shroob's castle has now opened. You can try going there, but there's a gate that doesn't let you in. So it's kind of there to like tease that you can get to the final dungeon at any point. You just don't have the means to get in there. And you're supposed to collect 5 Cobalt Star shards to do so. You can probably see where I'm going with this. In fact, you can basically get into the final dungeon as soon as this particular scene that Sway is doing right now is over. So rather than the Bounce Bros from Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, the new Bros overworld action we get is the roll, where we can turn them into a ball and then just roll around. It's really silly and I love it. You can also get your way through these tight corridors, and it also moves faster. It is the fastest form of movement on the overworld, but because you have to separate from the babies, it's only practical for movement in a handful of instances. Other than situations that would otherwise require it. So somebody asked, how do you get grades? It's basically if you perform well on a bros attack, it kind of goes from like good to great in terms of like your grade. So if you basically do a bros attack as intended, like you get enough hits on Bro Flower or Ice Flower, or you like press all of the buttons on Cannonballers, it's considered great. So as I alluded to earlier, this wormhole is Gritzy Desert, and we could in theory get here sooner, but you're supposed to get the Bros Ball to be able to move fast enough to hit this switch to get here. You can, if you move perfectly, make your way here, but it's like basically borderline TAS only, and there's not a particularly strong reason to do so, because you still need to complete Yoshi's Island in order to access the final dungeon. But this is Gritzy Desert, which the track from this area was given like a bit of a remix and put in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. The only track from Smash, I believe, from the Mario and Luigi Partners in Time soundtrack. But
Smash 4 added some from Bowser's Inside Story and Dream Team, I think.
Yeah, which honestly, Yoko Shimomura did fantastic in like all of these soundtracks. They finally added the grand finale from Bowser's Inside Story, which is honestly one of her greatest compositions of all time. I don't care if that's like kind of a boring take, it's the correct one. So this whole scene here is just really goofy and really funny, and I love it. Is this run done glitchless? Absolutely not. We've done a few glitches, and we're going to be doing a very big one soon. So basically, you're supposed to navigate around the desert and unlock the Koopaseum, as it's called, which is the Coliseum in the center. And in there, you find that basically the Shroobs are just kind of having some sort of big event. So this is Kylie Koopa. You'll see her again in Dream Team. She's sort of like a journalist who is investigating everything going on. She's sort of a supportive ally throughout this game. We don't see her nearly as much in the any % category. But
we were supposed to meet her in Yoshi's Island, but we skipped all those good scenes.
Yeah. I love just the background stuff in this scene of Luigi and the babies just dealing with the shrew. And Luigi. Anyway, so she just basically gives us this tip about how to get into the Koopaseum. We need to activate a switch. So this is sort of the way the game really tries to test our ability with the Bros Ball. So we're supposed to separate the babies here. Because they can't move very far, we're going to leave them on the left side. And because we have to cover a lot of ground as the adults, and because it's required, in order to progress past this upcoming screen, we're going to have the adults in bro ball form. This screen right here, I believe again that it is possible to make it without the Bros Ball, but it's just like, why would you bother? And again, like the window would be so incredibly tight. So yeah, the way these screens work is you need to use the adults to hit the switch, or the babies, and then on the opposite side, you switch to the other pair, and you have 10 seconds to hit the switch. So it's intending for you to separate here. And this is going to cause the statues to fire a laser. When 4 lasers are intersecting, those get rid of this block that's concealing a switch that opens the door to the Koopaseum. Being very careful to avoid enemies here. It is really important that you avoid enemies in this particular section of the game because you are separated between the adults and the babies. Typically, if one of the adults, dies in a battle or gets knocked out, I guess, you have a bit of a saving throw with the babies that can either run away or use a 1-up. So it's actually surprisingly difficult to die in this game. As long as you don't take repeated hits, but if you separate the two, your vulnerability goes up considerably, which is a real problem in the final dungeon, because in the final dungeon you run into an enemy that is basically the only enemy that is virtually undodgeable, which we really don't want to see.
Yeah.
When I say undodgeable, I mean he has an attack that is undodgeable. On the overworld, you don't have to deal with him, and in fact, I don't believe he has an overworld sprite. It can only be in the it can only just show up randomly in the battle. But yeah, we don't want to get into battles in the final dungeon for that reason. All right, so we have the switch to be able to access the alternate entrance to the Koopaseum here. We're going to see a fairly lengthy cutscene. So in theory, we wouldn't have to do all of this Coliseum or Koopaseum scenario, but at the bottom here is a shop which has a badge that we basically need to have any chance at dealing with the final boss because of just how underpowered we are. The task doesn't do this. And in the North American version, there is something called Gritzy Desert Skip, which has a very weird and elaborate setup that, sadly, trying to do it on, I think you can't even do it on console, if I remember right, but I definitely know that it was US version only. If there was a way to do Gritzy Desert Skip and access the pipe on the overworld there, we could save basically the entire Koopa scenario, where we're coming in here and watching this whole scene and having to do the fight at the end here, which is quite time consuming. If we could access Gritzy Desert early, that would save a considerable amount of time. So that's what I meant when I said earlier that this game still does have some untapped potential. But for now, we still have to come in here and watch this scene and deal with a boss fight. But this scene just kind of, I love it because it really goes to show you kind of the personality of the Shroobs. Like, they're not just a mindless conquering machine. Like, Princess Shroob knows how to put on a show. Like, she is definitely a crowd pleaser. You don't quite know what she's saying, but you can definitely like read the room and kind of get an idea of what she's trying to do here. So here she's basically, as a form of entertainment, offering a sacrifice for the crowd here. And here we get our mid-2000s PD Piranha contractual obligation appearance, because PD just showed up in like every game. It's just kind of a rule that like when a big new Mario game happens, characters from that game are like obligated to show up in ensuing games. You saw it a lot with like PD Piranha's appearance in like Mario Baseball, and then this game. He is a boss, but we won't see him in the 80%, but you do see him in the all bosses category. He's a real pain there. In Super Mario Galaxy, like as soon as they introduced Rosalina, she was in like every game for the next couple of years. After Mario Odyssey, you started seeing Pauline in like Mario Golf, for instance. So it's just kind of a Mario thing at this point. Yeah, PD is a fun, if annoying, boss. I also uses probably one of the more peculiar bros attacks in the entire run. It's kind of a shame we don't get to fight him in any percent, but we are trying to go fast. So yeah, now we need to make our way down to the center stage of the Coliseum here in order to figure out where the heck PD went, because he seemed to have eaten the princess, which is really bad.
Yeah, a bit inconvenient.
Considering it's the entire reason we went to the past in the first place. Alright, so here's the second of the 3 dark rooms that we'll see in this run.
And that's as much as I do blind for this one.
Yeah, the like little paths that you can walk on, as you can see, are very narrow. So even being able to do that much is pretty wild. Alrighty, so we're coming up on the boss of this area. He's going to make a save, because he hasn't saved in a while, which is a good idea. Okay, I have a soundtrack of this game playing in the background, and the track just called Peach Gets Eaten just started playing, and I'm like, why is there like sound effects in my soundtrack here? Alright, I love this cutscene. It's just so funny. Luigi completely fails at his job here. No. This scene just makes me think of like pro wrestling. I just assume this is like the Shroob's version of like pro wrestling. It's just combat sport. And God, Princess Shroob is like a fantastic MC. So this is Shrewbroid Brat. This is kind of the first boss that you really see the difference in versions. In the North American version, he has, I think, 1200 or 1300 HP. In this version, he only has 900. So he has some really time-consuming attacks. So what we're first going to do is use the Ice Flowers, which will basically guarantee a chance to get a Great. What we want to see is a defense drop.
I think I saw one.
Yeah, you did. There's a green a green light there. Sometimes you can also get a speed drop, which is really nice because that gives you a third turn before he gets to act.
I think that's only in all bosses. I think any percent doesn't have enough speed.
I mean,
all bosses,
pretty much,
like,
I'm
you
pretty
can
much
get an
been
extra
all
level
bosses
up on
runner,
Sunny's
so
side.
that makes sense. So we got the defense down, which is really good. So now he's going to do a pocket chomp, and in theory, this should take about 3 minutes, assuming he doesn't mess this up. Pocket chomps has the ability to go infinite. Sway is going to focus here and make sure that he doesn't mess this up, because if you fail an input here, you can basically throw off the whole thing, but you don't want this guy to get turns. It is worth the slow windup to get pocket chomps going, because if he gets attacks off, it is really time consuming. Yeah, you can really determine like a good runner from a great runner in this game by how good they get at the pocket chomps, and their ability to get the little bonus hit from the babies. Because you have a very short time period to figure out which button you need to press in order to get the action command on this fight, and then also figure out which of the two bros that you need to press. So yeah, we're just gonna be here doing this attack for, like I said, ideally it's about 2 minutes and 50 seconds. It might be 3 minutes on any percent, because I don't know if you do as much damage as you do on all bosses, because you get like an extra level in all bosses. Because in that you actually do the Kamek fight. You know, that is actually a funny little coincidence that we're running a game called Partners in Time on the day of GDQ's partnership anniversary. Like, was that planned?
Totally, yeah. I had this in my diary for the longest. No, I'm afraid to say it wasn't. But, congratulations, I suppose, are in order.
It is indeed quite serendipitous.
Yeah, this poor guy just does not really stand a chance, does he?
Oh, he gets the worst.
He absolutely mowed down.
He gets the worst concussion anyone has ever experienced.
So you said that this fight's a good couple of minutes, yeah?
Basically 3 minutes if done more or less perfectly.
3 minutes. How does that stack up to the other boss fights in this game? Obviously,
nice.
Feels
One
like
cycle there is fantastic.
Let's go.
Yeah, he would have had another chance to do a pocket chomp if he dropped it at some point, but you have one turn there, and if he goes under half health, he gets like 4 consecutive attacks, and it's like a minute lost for every single one of those. So it's just better to get the one cycle there. Sorry, you were saying Hibn?
That's all right. I was just wondering how that boss fight stacks up to the other boss fights that we see in the game.
So I mean, any percent, we're still probably going to see one pocket chomps. There is better bros attacks that have better damage per second. And we mean like actual damage per second, not just damage per turn. DPS has sort of become this catch-all term, I think, in a lot of games for like the amount of damage you do per turn. But like we mean actual damage per second. We do get better than Pocket Chomp. Pocket Chomp is just reliable for consistency, and it's the only infinite that we have access to right now, along with Trampoliners, which is way less consistent. Trampoliners is actually useful against PD Piranha in all bosses. But yeah, the Shrewboyd Brat fight, because of the need for one cycling, ends up actually being one of the longer fights. Now, you don't lose 4 minutes if Shrewboyd Brat gets a turn, but like he gets an extra, like he costs an extra minute per additional turn that he's allowed. So like if you let him get a turn, hold on, I'll shut up for this cutscene. This cutscene's great.
Oh no.
Mario's dealing with 3 crying babies now. But yeah, so you lose a minute if you let Sherwood Brat get a turn. Plus, you have to start your pocket chomps up again, which costs a little bit more time. Trampoliners is unfortunately less reliable for that kind of thing because if you drop even a single input, you lose your ability to go infinite. Whereas pocket chomps, you're given a little bit of a buffer, and it's a much smaller, or it's a much more forgiving time window. So here's what he's doing now is equipping what's called the Dire Pow badge or the Pinch badge in the Japanese version. The way that this badge works is when you are under 1/4 of your max HP, your damage increases to 2.5 times. And because it's not a power-up, it's just a flat damage increase, you can stack this with chili peppers. Which is huge because this allows us to deal with the final boss. This is a danger strat similar to those of, danger and peril strats of Paper Mario, just applied to this kind of game. In all bosses, we have another badge called the Risky badge, which I used. By the way, this is all
tragic! I died.
Oh no, he died. Thankfully, when you take a death, you can just automatically go back to the castle. So that's just a death warp, basically. Yeah, so there is Risky badge in all bosses, which can get you slightly more power. The risk is that it inverse to the Mush badge from Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, where you do more damage the more shrooms you have. Risky badge does more damage the fewer you have, which means you have to kind of do things with very few 1-ups. But its damage increase is slightly higher than Dire Pow, and it doesn't force you to be in low damage. Unfortunately, getting a Risk badge is really tricky in this category. I believe it's like a rare drop from one particular enemy. You can't buy it in the store yet. It's not until you get to Toad Town. If we can get to Toad Town early and which we have figured out a setup to get past one barrier, but we need to get past another if we want to actually get the Risky badge for any percent. But because we don't have that, we have to deal with Dire Pow, which means that you got to be at low HP. So here's the entrance to the final dungeon. Shoutouts to Gate Skip, as it is called. But this is a good opportunity for our second break because we're at the final dungeon. If that doesn't tell you, we're gonna just get into the final dungeon early. Actually, maybe you should do the clip just so we don't end on that cliffhanger, and then we'll cut to break.
Sure, yeah, I'm down for that if you want to do that.
All right. So here we see this scene that says, you can't get in here until you have at least 5 Cobalt Star Shards, more or less. As it turns out, you can actually clip into walls ever so slightly if you go into ball form. Yeah, so that is really, really easy to do. For the very brief explanation, you you tap 1 or 2 pixels to the left of that corner there, go into ball form, which pushes you, I think, 8 pixels backwards, and you line yourself kind of just slightly out of bounds. You can just go right past the gate. Solidified Gaming was looking for a trick to get past that for a long time, and then suddenly found out that ball just lets you clip into things by a small amount of pixels, and just, the skip is free. It is completely free. It is one of the easiest glitches in the game.
Just boot up the game yourself and probably just copy what I just did, and you'll probably get it. And if you're worried about being stuck here, don't you worry. It works backwards too.
Oh wow! All right.
Alrighty. So, we will be taking a very short intermission.
Awesome. Yeah, well, we are going to pause the timer again, folks. This is our last break until we find out the thrilling conclusion to the speedrun of Mario and Luigi Partners in Crime, Partners in Time. We are going to be having, once again, another wellness break, another chance to, get up, have a little stretch if you can. Make sure you're staying hydrated. And if you've got any meds to take your meds as well. And whilst we're going through, might as well remind you that your subs, Prime Gaming subs, gift subs, and bits cheered on the GDQ channel help support Games Done Quick Hotfix. So please consider subscribing if you enjoy the daily speedrunning content and, have got anything that you can chip in to help us out. But yes, we're going to leave you with some tunes in the intermission, and then we'll be back with as we were saying, the end, the final dungeon of this wonderful run. See you in a sec, folks. Alrighty, folks, welcome back after the last break of Going Places. A reminder that this is the Games Done Quick Hotfix, where we show off speedruns of games that were either on handheld consoles or games that only received region-exclusive releases. Just a reminder that if you want to catch any episodes of this show or any other Hotfix show, you can, of course, find them on our YouTube channel, Games Done Quick, and also if you're on YouTube, come join us on Twitch. Come join the runs as they're happening live. Join the hype. Last 2 weeks ago, we had some Sonic RPG action. We had Sonic Chronicles Dark Brotherhood, as well as a game on the Sega Pico, which is interesting, kind of book type, console type thing. Kind of portable, kind of not. It fell under the region exclusive bracket, promise me. And we are now throwing it back over to now a Mario RPG. We are going to be closing off this great run of Mario and Luigi Partners in Time with Sway. Hello once again, Sway.
Hi.
We are ready to get going again when you are ready, so let us know and we'll start the timer again.
Okay, yeah.
Just be careful you don't throw them onto the warp, by the way.
Oh. Yeah. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so I actually already did this before the break, but once again,
let's do it again.
Do it again. I wasn't looking.
That's gate skip.
Hey, nice.
So gate skip is free. We call it gate skip because that's the PG version of the name. The normal version of the name is it includes a certain adverb that we won't repeat on stream because it's a certain 7-letter word that sounds like freaking. That name was given to it by Solidified Gaming, who found the skip originally, and it is basically to sum up how, like, the feeling of finding this skip after trying so many different complicated setups in a room that you really don't have very many options to work with. So the fact that it's doable is kind of just incredible, just based on the way ball clipping works. So here we are in the final dark room of the run. Sway more or less knowing how this room is supposed to go. There's some portions that are generally advised to do in the dark. And since we're here so much earlier than intended, we're quite a bit under leveled. So there is actually going to be a little bit of a grinding section in the start of this to try and get up to level 12. But the other most important thing you do while you're in the final dungeon is pick up bros items. As I mentioned, there are 10 bros items, and you don't unlock most of the best ones until after you defeat PD Piranha, which is just like an extra 10 minutes into the run we don't really have time to do. Like, I mean, we could do it, but it's a lot slower and has like an extra cutscene attached, and it's just actually probably even more than 10 minutes, maybe like 20. So instead of actually being able to buy most of these items, Sway is going to be just picking up whatever he can get in the final dungeon here. So the thing to keep in mind about these Tashroombas, as they're called, they're Tanuki Shrew Goombas. They're weak to fire, so they also are susceptible to burn, which is a status effect that skips their turn. It's like one of the very few times that any sort of status effect comes into play. But yeah, you see one of them, his head's on fire. That basically means that we skip this turn. So we want to get the bros up to level 12. This is a point where they'll have enough power, but more importantly, they'll reach vital HP thresholds to be able to deal with the final boss without being completely one-shot while having the Dire Bow badge equipped, because Did you take off the bros? Did you take off of all of their equipment off, Sway? Did you take off the adult bros equipment? I don't know. It's been a little bit.
I'll be getting different equipment and equipping them over that, like when I get them.
Yeah, so as part of the intentionally sandbagging to get yourself low HP, the strat the Sway did was deliberately take a death on the adults in the on an encounter, and then run away from the fight, which resets the bros to 1 HP. Unfortunately, in the final boss, you don't have the luxury of just going into the fight with 1 HP because you automatically recover between phases. So you have to kind of like intentionally take damage, but not take so much damage that you die. And like this is a big part of why we do grinding, because this allows us to survive a hit on purpose. So yeah, they just got their turn skipped because they were lit on fire. It's not a commonly seen status effect, but it is because I think people don't usually use bros items on regular enemies, but it is very welcome. Different runners actually do, I think, different strats here. Some upgrade HP more in this part. Sway just goes all in on power.
Yeah, that depends on whether you get a certain piece of equipment that I will be getting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that piece of equipment is tied to where you tied to the timer you set at the start. Oops, oh, that's unfortunate. I actually forgot how that timer exactly works. Does having taken that
So the
break,
timer at the beginning that's to manipulate the patterns for these fights. Like to get a set of 2 enemies.
Okay, I know they also can manipulate certain other things, including like random drops that you get from enemies. I know Snowion and Migu tinkered with that quite a bit. But yeah, because these fights you can just randomly see anywhere from 1 to 3 to Shroombas, so I was worried there that the break might have thrown you off because that added a few extra minutes to your times. This is more of a time attack than a real time attack run at this point.
I adjusted the starting time to account for that. So.
Makes sense.
Yeah, we should be good.
But yeah, so to give you some context on how much time this saves, the current all bosses record, I believe you recently got that, right, Sway?
I did, yeah.
335.
That's a 338.
338. I mean, it was not a particularly like big record, and there's definitely still some time left to save in all bosses because it's a bit less run of a category. But yeah, so that includes the Kamek boss fight that we've skipped, and then the entirety of the Thwomp Volcano scenario, the remainder of the desert scenario, all of Toad Town, Star Hill, and Star Shrine, which is kind of sad because I think Star Hill and Star Shrine are like my favorite areas in this game. But all of that adds a little bit more than an additional hour to the run. So we're saving probably like 35-40% of the game just by performing gate skip. Now, admittedly, there are some things that are made faster. You get more abilities, and you have to do a slightly slower path through the final dungeon because you don't have Baby Spin. You also have to do the Dark Room. You can actually skip that in all bosses because of a trick called Baby Cake Spin, which is a very fun little little portmanteau of a skip name. But yeah, Yeah, so we still have to deal with the final boss and final dungeon here, which takes a bit longer. Plus, we have to deal with the additional grind of getting a few extra enemies here. So in that little trunk, that little tube that he went into with the babies, he picked up an item called the Space Pants, or Space Trousers in the North American version. We all call it Space Pants because it's just a funnier thing to say, just Space Pants. It's pants from space. I'm going to do a little out of bounds trick here. This also uses ball clipping, which kind of, again, it's like ball clipping and ledge clipping, where, it's unfortunate you got it back in bounds, where he zips up to a higher point on the z-axis while being out of bounds. He's going to fall here and then just pick up the babies and then run out of bounds. And just out of bounds is really janky in this game. Get back inbounds on the ledge here. He's not supposed to be able to get here for like quite a bit longer, so he has to be careful to dodge enemies here. This was probably the biggest thing that is still in the route that was discovered by Really Tall, so shoutouts to Tall for making any percent like doable, because this dungeon stinks. Like, the funny thing is, even in glitchless, there is a skip in this. It's like the one non-glitch skip that involves using baby spin on like the very, very tip of a pipe. This was like one of like 2 major time saves that were in the old version of the route. But thanks to all the various different skips, this final dungeon is like stupidly broken. In fact, most of what Sway is doing here he's going into the sewers. In all bosses, you actually don't even bother. We're not going to the sewers to like actually do them as intended. In fact, he's doing them in reverse order. And this is because there's a number of useful things that he's going to need to deal with the final boss on the way. Like, when I say that the run is very heavily centered around the final boss, I mean it, because like, in theory, if the final boss was like really quick and really simple, we wouldn't bother doing the whole like lengthy Shrewvoid Brat scene, but like, you kind of need to do that to really have much of a fighting chance in a real-time run. I believe Anwinu is the only person who has done a big POW route, and even then he had to do some quite lengthy setup to get it to work, and it was still significantly slower than the current route, which uses the Dire POW badge. So he's picking up copy flowers, red
Mixed
shells,
flowers.
and mixed flowers.
Oh, yeah.
I was gonna get to those. Those are later. So to give you an idea of what all of those do, copy flowers clones all the bros, and it kind of works similar to like a super jump from Super Mario RPG if you're familiar with that. Here he's once again gonna set the timer to do a bit of a manipulation here. Copy flowers, you clone the bros, and then they just repeatedly jump on an enemy in a sequence. We'll see what that does. Red shell is like a green shell, except it caps out at an even higher max speed, and it can go infinitely, rather than green shell, which has a maximum of 16 hits. And then finally, mixed flowers, you just kind of shoot a like bro flower spirit bomb into the sky, and then it just falls on an enemy and does a lot of damage. It can theoretically go infinite, but like, its damage is kind of like, I want to say logarithmic. There's a point where it's like every 3 new fireballs you add to it only increases its damage by 1. So you wouldn't want to like keep going on it forever, because it's A, it's really hard to do that, and B, it's just diminishing returns in terms of time investment at that point. Yeah, this enemy kind of stinks. Just gonna go for a pocket chomp to not blow precious resource.
That's wrong. Yeah, I'm doing an RNG manipulation here. That's why I reset my console earlier. Oops.
That additional time save from saving a second every time you reboot the game is it's really coming in handy here. So yeah, every time he loads up this title screen, you'll notice it's like this screen appears, he can immediately press start. You normally have to wait an additional second if you're playing on other versions. Typically, I think the standard for runners, if you have a copy, is to run on the European version, just because the English text in this game is pretty pretty lovingly translated. But, you know, this is a this is a speedrun, and B, this is a much more accessible version because DS games, again, have like just gone up ridiculously in value.
Let's go. Okie dokie.
So he can kind of tell like what inputs he's going to have to do on the pocket chomps here because of how he's manipulated the game.
Oh no.
Oh, what?
I think I might have hovered on one of them too long. Might still be fine. This still looks correct. Okay, this should be good. Yep, we got it.
Okay.
Nice.
Forget what that item is called. So this is more of a
the
safety
Supreme
strat.
Slacks.
Normally we go into
It's the
So normally
strongest
we
piece
go-
of equipment in the game.
Yeah, and that's like the main reason you manipulate it because it's a pretty low chance of it dropping. So if you get that in tandem with the space pants, like it's just the best increase of like offense while also providing a bit of defense. Normally you don't go for that in any percent runs. You just kind of like say, I'm not going to get hit by the final boss. But the final boss is very punishing. Once again, doing a ledge clip here to get out of bounds. I don't know why I said like said like I wasn't sure if ledge clipping was still a thing because I remember the Toad Town ledge clip. But anyways, just doing all of this in this particular sequence lets him skip a humongous chunk of the final dungeon. So now we're heading straight to the final boss. Like, I wasn't kidding when I said that this final dungeon is tremendously broken. You can get here really quickly in an all bosses run, and technically you could in an any percent run as well, but, you know, you need to spend that additional time to just have the resources to even have a chance at the final boss. So Sway making really good use of the stair glitch here, or not stair glitch, the stair jumps here, because stairs in this game are really annoying. Or really just any like 45-degree angle slopes. So here Stuffwell is going to reveal that he has the entirety of the Cobalt Star. He was just hiding the other 3 shards apparently. No, you're supposed to have all 5 when you get to this scene, and they kind of are set to sail off into the top of this Princess Shroud-shaped tower. I don't know why that's suddenly like really hard to say. A lot of S phonemes there. Anyway, so behind this door is supposed to be like the end game scenario. He encourages you to save. Stuffwell like encourages you very actively in this cutscene to make sure that you will save. There is also a save point after this upcoming cutscene. It's like you think that this is the end game scenario and that you're locked in here, but he can take you. Stuffwell can like take you out of it and like let you go back. Like you're not stuck dealing with the final boss until you actually start the final boss, thankfully. This game is really forgiving in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so this is Princess Peach, obviously. She is kind of relaying some information to us.
Wait, how did she escape Petey, though?
Magic. Anyway, so we inform her that like we got here by completing part of the Cobalt Star, and she immediately has a very dramatic reaction of like, no, you can't. But as is tradition in this game, anytime somebody's about to give you any crucial pieces of information, the Shroops come in and ruin the situation, and so we need to take care of that first. God, Princess Shroob is just like such a character. Like, she's not in a ton of cutscenes, and she doesn't have a lot of dialogue. She does have some dialogue that you can translate, but like she has enough of a role in the story of this game that I quite like. I quite like her role in the story. Like, even without speaking your language, she still like has a surprising amount of personality. Anyway, so that's the mothership. So we need to deploy apparently the cap on top of the princess statue's head also doubles as a ship. So we're going to make a safety save here. Shouldn't screw this up, but it doesn't hurt to be additionally safe. It's pretty difficult to mess up this particular part of the fight, and this isn't quite the final boss. This is like the final mini game. So basically, you get into the ship. There was a tutorial for this earlier, but thankfully we don't have to do that particular tutorial, so we can just do this fight without the tutorial, because we already know how to do it anyway. Basically, the 4 bros are all going to line up, and then each bro hits a switch, and then Mario can activate a fire button. Each switch they hit determines their elevation. Usually you want to be like 1 max bar's worth of height. And then the mothership's going to summon these UFOs, and you kind of determine where you position. You can fire, and then you want to fire a ship into the mothership, and that is how you do damage. If you are lucky, she will be positioned to where you can quickly hit her. If you're really lucky, you can sometimes get a double, but that's not going to come into play in this run. Oh, you almost got a double even when you didn't need to. But yeah, so 4 very quick hits, and then down goes the mothership. Which I do want to briefly shout out. There are some, like, you do go on to the mothership after the Thwomp Volcano and before the Star Hill Toad Town scenario in all bosses. There's a skip on the mothership that we just called the mother skip because we saw an opportunity and we were not letting that go to waste. Alright, so here we are on the final battle with Princess Shroob, who is definitely a 1-form final boss and not a like 3-phase final boss like I said earlier on in the run. And I'm totally lying to you right now.
I think I will be deafening, by the way.
Okie dokie. You go ahead. So this fight is the hardest part of this run. It is very intense. So I will be doing pretty much all of the talking, as I've done a lot of the talking for the remainder of this run. This run is actually really hard to both do and commentate. Believe me, I have tried. I have not shut up since the start of this run, and even I have a very hard time doing both at once. So it's nice to only have to do one or the other. But more so than any other point in the run, this fight demands focus. So this is the first phase of the final boss. This is Princess Shroob in her little floating throne here. And get a really cool like boss theme for the record. I really like the boss theme here. It's going to turn into this glowing ball. It's supposed to flicker at 30 hertz, so sometimes it won't be there, sometimes it will, but there is a glowing energy barrier around her right now. You need to hit this 16 times. Doesn't matter if you get the correct action command, you just need to hit it 15 times. Sway is, I believe, going to hit it correctly 11 times. And then just, let all 4 hits take their course. This is trampoliners. I'm not used to seeing anyone do this strat, but yeah, so you only need to hit it this many times, and That breaks the shield, and she now has 1700 HP. First things first, power up with the Bro Flower, or not the Bro Flower. He wants to counter this attack, which is a lot easier to do if it's targeting Mario. I'm going to go for a red shell, and this is just going to look really wild. So she has 1700 HP here, uses the strength bonus from the Dire Pow badge, which is 2.5 times, and then I don't remember the exact bonus that a chili pepper does. I think it's like 1.3 or 1.4 times damage. But those two stack together to give him enough of damage to have a fighting chance in this fight. Red shell, oh, that's unfortunate. This attack can theoretically go infinite. So the inputs here are Bro attack, and then when the shell is about to hit the boss, you press the button of the baby. So it's like B-Y-A-Y, B-Y-A-Y. Ooh, that's not good. He does have a number of 1-ups here as sort of a saving throw. Bought more chili peppers than he honestly needs. So yeah, the record holder for this game, Reef, his like record run broke a record that had been there for this game for probably like almost 6 years. It was at least 5.
Oh wow.
Snowion had the record for a long time, and nobody really came close. Reef, basically, like his run in terms of like execution on tricks and RNG isn't really better than the old record that was held by Snowion, but he got really good at copy flowers, or not copy flowers, at red shells, and like saved literal minutes on the final boss. So like that really goes to show just how much time you can save on the final boss. So here he's just burning a turn, because if you get this boss down to her desperation phase, where she's under 850 HP, her turns get a lot longer. So yeah, that counterattack brought her under 850. So unfortunately, he wasn't able to get a really good red shell going. You can one turn this fight with a really good red shell because it does go infinite, but it is really difficult because one dropped input and the whole thing just is gone. So he's just going for more consistent strats. So this is copy flowers. At its max speed, there is a 19 frame gap between inputs, and you have 5 frames to input the inputs. So that's 5/60th or 1/12th of a second. With a good enough copy flower, he should be able to end this fight. So. And yeah, these items are consumables. He does not have a lot of these to spare. So he's trying to be cautious that he doesn't use too many, like red shells, for instance. So. That's unfortunate. That's really close to fatal damage here. But yeah, now she gets multiple of these. Hopefully he can get a counterattack, and that might be lethal. I haven't been quite counting. Considering he's already deafened and he can't hear me, it doesn't really matter if I'm counting. Alright. Yeah, he was really close. Thankfully she did a quick attack there. She has some really time-consuming attacks. So that's 1700 damage down. And that is the first phase of the final boss. That is Princess Shroob. I was like scared that the game would crash there. I've seen this game crash exactly once, and it's like
really. Also, hi, by the way.
Hi, welcome back. Yeah, nice recovery. So the Cobalt Star is looking to complete itself here, and Peach says that she does have the final piece, but she says she cannot give it to us because something really bad will happen if you complete the Cobalt Star. Needless to say, Bowser actually stowed away on the mothership in a cutscene that we haven't seen, and he just shows up here and he's like, I'm gonna complete this and take it as my own treasure, because he's kind of an idiot. And Princess Shroob walks over here and says something like, now it's your turn, One-san, or older sister. So there's a picture that there's the like drawing that Toadbert had earlier. Normally you're supposed to, like, when you finally reunite with him at Star Shrine, wipe off part of it. One of the few things that actually uses the touchscreen in this game.
I think it's the only thing.
Yeah, you see a second Princess Shroob in that. You don't really know what to make, like, what sense to make of it. As it turns out, there are two Princess Shroobs, the older and the younger. We dealt with the younger, but Peach seals away the older one into the Cobalt Star and then shatters. So the Cobalt Star that has been following us is actually the final boss. So, like, to get into the final dungeon, we needed to finish this, we needed to finish the star, and that's the reason why it was gated in the first place, is because, you know, we need to collect all the different pieces of the star that were scattered and then bring them to recomplete it, and then basically resummon the older Princess Shroob. So this is Elder Princess Shroob, or EPS as we like to refer to her. She's very wiggly and kind of nightmare fuel. I kind of like it because it's a surprise final boss, but there's like a ton of foreshadowing through this game. So it's not quite like a Necron from Final Fantasy IX. Like, there is hints to this in the entire game, and it's a nice welcome twist. But yeah, EPS is Sway is going to focus on this fight. Peach helps us out here. We did get a full health refill, which is kind of unfortunate. Ooh, a free red shell. So now she's going to jump on the top screen. She's got to watch which hand she uses to know which attacks to dodge. And then he's going to use this because these attacks do an amount of damage that's easy enough to deal with that he'll guaranteed be alive going into this. And now he's going to try... okay, so he's going for the pocket chomps. You could try the red shell here, but... honestly, like, if you mess that up, the time loss is pretty significant because when she goes to attack, Princess Peach will usually send you some additional aid. Like, she usually gives you a star to, like, knock out the UFOs on the top screen. But if you are low health, she will heal you, which is actually what we don't want to see. So Sway is just going to go to the good old-fashioned pocket chomps. It is slower than the red shells, but it is old consistent. So this phase has 1,800 health. On the North American version, it is 3,500. So that is like a gargantuan time save versus the US/North American version. You might notice that we say US versus European rather than the typical, which is to say North American or NTSC versus PAL. This is more of a technical term. PAL is only in reference to the televisions because the DS was a 60 Hz console in all regions and is a region-free console. You can play this game, any version of this game, on any different console, and it'll run at the same frame rate. It's not like PAL games, which back in the day were 50 Hz and thus ran at 5.6 normal speed. Or North American speed, I suppose, because to them it was the normal speed, and we were turbo version. But yeah, this attack can go infinite. The pocket chomps are nice because they have a little bit of room for failure. If he does make a mistake, he can recover. But yeah, so he just made a mistake there, and like hit the chomp with the baby on top, which causes the chomp to speed up. 2 consecutive failures is enough to just completely end the infinite here. But it is also worth noting that there are like 3 different timings to the adult hit on the boss as well. One of which gives you a lot of distance away from the boss. One of which like you just kind of like bounce right off of it. You still get the great hit, but you actually lose speed. So your timing does matter here. There are like 3 different timings, and the worst timing on the boss actually slows you down. So yeah, a 1 cycle on Princess Shrew phase and Elder Princess Shrew phase 1. So now she goes into her like final phase. So this is alas basically her final form. And this is where things get a little bit more tricky. Rather than just 1 boss, there are 7 different hitboxes. She has 2 tentacles on the side. Feet tentacles that I will refer to as probably just the feet, and then the crown, and then the head. The head is the main target. The crown needs to be dealt with, or all of your damage, with one exception, to the head will only be capped out at 1. So he's gonna do a mix flowers to start this, or no, he's gonna deal with the feet tentacles and then deal with mix flowers. It's been a while. I forget the exact order. But he needs to deal with the feet tentacles to get to the crown, and then finally be able to deal with the head. So he's first going to use a red shell to deal with the feet tentacles, and because the feet tentacles are really close, the timing on this is extra tight, like even more so than younger Princess Shrew was. So almost, he should be able to finish it off with a mix flowers. Alright, so once again, he's going to summon a big old spirit bomb in the sky. He needs to deal, like, I think the crown has 250 health, or 200. The feet tentacles have 500, and the arms have, like, 300. And then the face has 2,000. But it's only going to take 1 damage from the mixed flower here. This particular attack, she lights up a bunch of UFOs on the top. If it is on fire, that means that it is Mario. If it is electric, that means it is Luigi. It's a bit of a weird kind of gimmick, but it's actually a kind of a callback to Superstar Saga, where Mario's power was fire and Luigi's power was thunder. She also sometimes does an attack where she spits out an energy ball that turns purple, and she puts red and green into the energy ball. That is the only attack that it counters her face, and it does regular damage, regardless of whether the crown is active or not. But yeah, this is definitely a share your energy moment, because this is by far the hardest part of this run. So
I'm definitely sharing my energy.
My chair is like adjusting itself. Alright. So you have to do 2,000 to the head, and between all the 1 damage counterattacks and the 50 damage that he did earlier, he is basically has to do about like 1,945 damage. He's gonna go for copy flowers.
Wow.
Hopefully we can get the 1 cycle here. Unfortunately, he cannot get the, as you saw with the mist there, he cannot get the supplemental damage from the babies here. So, on the one hand, he doesn't have to focus on doing that, but on the other, that means that his damage output is significantly slower for this.
Okay.
And he really, really wants to 1 cycle this. If he does, that would be fantastic, because she starts to summon up the feet tentacles and the arms again after this, and if she does that, this fight suddenly becomes a lot more time consuming, because she gets more attacks, tricky because you have to dodge all of her attacks. It's not pleasant. Worst case scenario, the crown comes back, and like by that point it's usually often difficult to recover. It's kind of the scary part about ever running this game in a marathon. So, just trying to avoid the worst timing on this attack. I unfortunately got consecutive bad timings and then a couple of mistakes. All right. Thankfully, this particular counterattack, because she doesn't have the crown, this will actually do damage. So 521, she's at about 1,400, 1,300 HP left. So since somebody's asking, this is currently being played on a DS. You can also run it on 3DS. You can also do it on VC, which is like the Wii Virtual Console is like slightly faster, but like it's way harder to run because it has a lot more input delay. Like I mentioned, at max speed, Copy Flowers is a 19 frame, like there's 19 frames of timing in between inputs, and there's a 5-frame window, so you have to like figure out which button to press and press that button in time at like a ridiculous speed. Like some people like Snowion can do it over 100. Okay, so she's at 800 HP now, so 2 consecutive good Copy Flowers should kill. Unfortunately, when that attack comes out, things get real dicey. So he's gonna bring Luigi back with the 1-up EX, which is it brings him back to full, which can be a little bit easier to manipulate HP thresholds. It is worth noting for certain attacks that the damage you deal is based on which bro you choose, which matters because the peppers can run out. And if the peppers run out on one bro, the one that you like, you can still do increased damage if you initiate the attack with the bro that has the one active. This is unfortunate. Yeah, she's down to like 430-ish health. Very nice. All right. Unfortunately, he can't do pocket chomps here because the problem with pocket chomps is your targeting is random. So I'm hoping for a good one here. Yes. Oh man. So he knew that she was dead because the Copy Flowers picked a new target. So he's got the piss down. You had me nervous there, Sway. Oh man, that fight is stressful every marathon run that I see it in. Very well done. Unfortunately, not getting the pocket chomps 1-turn kill, but you recovered, you salvaged it, you had really good Copy Flower consistency there. So just barely able to squeeze out the amount of damage needed before she would go into her she would get her crown back and things would get really dicey. Her attacks get very long. So yep, there is, gosh, I don't remember exactly how long. I think there's like a 4-minute cutscene here, and then a fight, and then another 2-minute cutscene. So it's like an 8 or 9 minute gap between the final boss and time. We call her the final boss. I did say it was her final form, but we got a little bit more gameplay. One final thing left to take care of.
Well, hey, I mean, if that gives you enough time to sort of explain what's happening and all that, might as well use this time for, shout outs and stuff. If there are any, I know that you've mentioned quite a few people already, but if there are any more sort of personal ones unrelated to the game, then if this is a good bit to do so, then
this definitely
over to you guys.
So don't mind Professor Riga. They've figured out the chemical that can cure the shrubs. Just infecting things like shrub mushrooms is baby tears, which is also like strangely morbid. But he comes up with like some saline equivalent and just like floods the past with it. Just rain of like synthetic baby tears, just covering the world of the past and just purging the shrubs. It's really weird. Don't overthink it. Most of the time travel stuff in this game, they don't even bother with like serious attempt at continuity, and I think it's better for it because it keeps up its charm. But for shoutouts, again, Anwanu, the OG, the legend, would not be the speed game that it is today without him. He was the pioneer of this game. Migu, who is he's helped find several glitches, has done both of the tasks, which I recommend checking out. Snowion, who had the record in this game for quite a long time, and found several different strats. Solidified Gaming and Really Tall, both tremendous glitch hunters who helped out big time with several different Mario RPGs, including Thousand Year Door and this one. And I believe Dream Team and Paper Jam as well. Shoutouts to the entirety of the Mario and Luigi speedrunning community, the likes of Alta Biscuit, Mermilio. I can name so many names right now. It's just it's like I don't have time for everyone. Shoutouts to Yoshizilla. We were hoping to have him on commentary, but things didn't work out in terms of timing for that. But also runs this game, also runs Superstar Saga. Shoutouts to Reef, the current any percent world record holder, finally broke through that barrier that Snowy On had been keeping up for so long, just by getting really, really good at red shells, which has kind of made this game somehow even more difficult to run because of the skill threshold needed to optimize. Shoutouts to Tonkatsu, another Japanese runner who I think has really helped he and Reef have developed a bit of a rivalry, and I think that's helped push several of these games down. New Paper Jam record was set fairly recently. Dream Team had been pretty competitive. Any percent came down for this game, and shoutouts to Sway. He recently took the All Bosses record and has been pretty competitive with any percent as well. The fact that we didn't have anything go too wrong with this run means that we'll still be pretty comfortably underestimate. Shoutouts again to Beastly N64, who helped find the original Toad Town early, and then Sir Lucas as well. There's a few other runners, Doster, Onasu, Robin, Maxi, BGM, a whole bunch of people have come in and run this game. It was kind of a meme in 2017. A certain YouTuber by the name of Chugga Conroy made a Let's Play of this game where he said, nobody's done speedruns of this game. It must be a free world record. Right when we were discovering everything and just crushing this game, and record was getting really optimized. So it was funny his timing, because we suddenly got a whole bunch of views on our Partners in Time YouTube videos. So that really helped bring more attention to the scene, if incidentally. But anyways, so we didn't deal with the Bowser scenario in this particular game, because that's in the Thwomp Volcano scenario. But basically Bowser gets owned, meets his past self, both of them get owned. He's unconscious. We end up bringing the Princess Shroom here, and Bowser just kind of eats it while unconscious, and then absorbs her power. So this is truly her final form.
Everyone, this just in. Bowser's in this game.
Yes, Bowser's in this game, and he is the final boss. Somehow Bowser is the final boss of every Mario and Luigi game. Even Dream Team, where it should have probably been Phantasma, if you ask me. It's even in his own game, you have Dark Bowser. But anyways, so this is the Shrouzer fight. It is the final fight of the game. He just doesn't let you have turns. How he does that, I don't really know. But he just insists he's not going to let you get a turn. So you just need to dodge or counterattack everything. And every dodge or counterattack you do will hit the spirit of Princess Shrew on the top. And so every hit will do either half or one full heart there, or I guess mushroom. And once you've depleted all of those, the fight is over, and that is the final fight. Time will be 2 minutes afterwards. I will leave Sway to call it. It's supposed to be on the final text box where it says babies thank you or babies arigato. And then as soon as that text box fades, that is time. Okay, so this should finish the fight. Well done. Very good, very well done, very good marathon run. You absolutely
I was meaning to
killed that
save before this fight, but it completely slipped my mind. Thankfully, this fight's not
This
like too
fight
hard.
is nowhere near as difficult as dealing with EPS.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you weren't able to pull off like the one-turn kill on the red shell, but you did get on the first pocket chomps and then recovered on the final boss to be able to close out this run. So yeah. Do you have any final shout-outs, Sway? I think this would probably be a good time for you. We're just mashing text here and dealing with a final funny cutscene.
Shout out to. Well, thank you, Hib, for having me on the show.
Thank you for being up for it.
Thank you, GK, for commentating.
Absolutely. I love this game. I'm always happy to commentate for it. I don't see it in marathons often enough. I'm really hoping we can at some point get this into a main GDQ. It was on a backup list once, so we know they've seen the run. I also have to give shout-outs to Muzz. I know they don't run the game, but has done art for both Sway and myself, and also did the thumbnails for the tasks. Just a cool person in general. Also, when Solidified found Gate Skip, immediately called up Muzz on like the other end of the, who lives on a completely different continent, just to complain about how easy Gate Skip was to actually do after spending so long trying to find a complicated setup for it. So yeah, just shout out to all the cool people in the various different Mario RPGs and, communities. If you're interested in joining any of the Mario and Luigi games on speedrun.com, I have a link to the Discord, or you can ask Sway or myself and probably get it to you. Same thing for like Paper Mario if you have any interest in those. I love this cutscene. It's like Luigi finally appeases his younger self, who doesn't want to leave his older self. But he finally appeases him by giving me a Yoshi cookie, and baby Luigi tosses a hammer at him, which
Where did Luigi get that cookie, by the way?
Because Luigi is always the butt of every joke. All right, so time is going to be
Time is coming up. Not this one, but wait, when this text goes away. And time.
Awesome. GG's. I'm looking at a 2:46. Yeah, so we have a bit of time to spare, which is really cool. Shoutouts to the credits team of this music. Shoutouts to Yoko Shimomura. Shoutouts to Alpha Dream. Rest in peace. I assume their staff has probably been absorbed elsewhere in Nintendo. We'd love to see more Mario RPGs. But yeah, that should do it for the show. Thanks for having us, Hib. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Well, I know Sway only got a few moments there, but if there are any more shout outs, if if you want to do a little plug for yourself, if people want to see more of this, more of you, where can they find you?
Yes. Yeah, you can find me at twitch.tv/SwayNC. Yeah, I mostly stream the Mario RPGs. Currently been playing this game mostly, but I've run the Mario and Luigi series and the Paper Mario series, which that one is probably the one I'm more known for, but especially the 1000-Year Door. But
yeah, definitely give Sway a follow. Very good at a lot of different games in this series. Kind of come in and really pushed several of them forward, and also just a really comfy stream.
Awesome. Well, GK, it seems like a lot of people enjoyed your voice. Where can they find you as well?
As on my Twitch channel is, I've been shouting it out a few times, but it's listed as on the stream, twitch.tv/GhostKimo. I run a variety of RPGs. Haven't run this game in a while. I kind of am just all over the place. I've done runs of like Bug Fables. I've done Paper Mario Randomizer, and then I'm more known for like Falcom games, like the Trail, or like not really Trails. I haven't done Trails, even though I'm the admin in the Trails speedrun server. But I also run like the East series a lot. That's kind of my baby. And just kind of a variety of different things. So if y'all are kind enough to give me a follow, I'd much appreciate that. I help out with RPG Limit Break, also a great channel that I've shouted out a few times because we had the privilege of running there. And yeah, that's basically it for me. Shout outs to the Mario and Luigi community.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, you two. That was a great run, and there was a lot of love for it in the chat, and hopefully a lot of love, wherever people will find this stream, wherever people will find this run. Right, folks, I am desperately holding in a cough, so I'm going to say thank you so much for catching Going Places this Friday night, or if you're watching on YouTube, hello once again. Oh, there we go. We're going to be throwing it over to, I believe it is Grudge Match next. We are going to be having what looks like OJ Machine versus Ryan Ford. Who knows what games they're going to be playing, but if it's something the presenters put together, it's going to be great. Lana Roos is stepping in as host for this one, but I'm sure it is going to be a bang out. After that, we're also going to be having some parallel universe action. A show about fan games and mods, which this time around will feature Celeste custom level packs. So still a whole load of stuff to happen on Hotfix tonight, folks, but we will be seeing you in 2 weeks' time for Going Places. And yeah, have a lovely break and enjoy whatever's coming next.